You are now listening to the Masters Mahan podcast. Episode 19, The Catcher in the Lie. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you have been abused or are a minor, you should stop now. This episode builds on the previous ones. In our previous episode, we set up the notion of spellcasting in broad, long strokes to help stimulate you into the concept.
Stop that!
I don't mean in a sexual way and all. It was done to get you to come and see how it is used both in ritual abuse and on the public at large. You are encouraged to listen to episode 18 prior to this one. In fact, you are strongly encouraged to enter the subject from the front, since going through the back door will only leave you prostrated, and there is so much you will then need to brush up against to reach this episode, which is the climax of the prior ones. So please take number 1 in hand and start with episode 1, as each succeeding experience with us assumes that you have risen up the ranks of the previous, but even if you have deviated from the normal, push on, continue, push on. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You'll be pleased you did, because...
It's one small step for man, one
We are, as a people,
opposed
opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret machines. And we are opposed around the world by a scientific and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covet means.
Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan.
The vision of Joel has been fulfilled.
So the name of this project is FunVax.
We don't just need more money for vaccines for children eventually. We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic.
We'll eliminate this behavior. And we believe that's the satisfactory way to get that
my preferred pronouns are he, him, is.
Do you think the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down. Michelle is a transgender. We all know.
And so we eat the blood of our enemy.
But you know, there's quite an awakening coming.
Hear it. All occult spells are based on word plays, repetition and/or circular reasoning, and reinforcement through partial real-world truth. We continue with your major programming tool that has been used on your teenagers backwards of 80 years now. Let's explore J.D. Salinger's one-hit bestseller, The Catcher in the Rye, by stepping into the darkness of the rye field. Or as some Luciferians quip, smoke gets in your eyes.
I'll go in and flush a bird out. Just stay even with me as I go in. You stupid fool. Do you see one?
Right there under that dead tree.
Oh yeah. You're falling behind. You can't shoot safely if you're behind me.
Oh no. Why did you get in my way?
Smoke gets in your eyes. Smoke gets in your eyes. Smoke gets in your eyes.
Of the many programming books used on the masses, perhaps the most ubiquitous modern example is J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. Hopefully, we have prepared you to finally see what your young groin was trying to tell you back in your impressionable high school days when you were required to read this book. Consider this episode as an intermediate course in seeing and hopefully undoing some past mind control. Let's start with some history. J.D. was born Jerome David Salinger on New Year's Day, 1919, to Sol Salinger, a Jewish dealer in kosher foods, and a non-Jewish mother, Marie Gillich. Jerome David didn't know that his mother wasn't Jewish, because after her marriage she changed her name to the Hebrew form Miriam to shut up her in-laws, who were angry that their prince had married a golem, meaning a dirtbag daughter of Eve with Adam, in their culture. This is your clue that his grandparents considered themselves descendants of Eve's so-called premarital affair with Lucifer in snake form. We'll expand it when we can slip it in undetected later, so let it just grow in your mind for now.
Stop that.
Under Jewish law, as they understand it, one's Jewishness comes from one's mother, and so little JD had his first lesson in being a phony at his bar mitzvah, when the truth was sprung on him that he wasn't really considered a real Jew in his Jewish community, living as and being confronted with phonies would become a major theme in his book. During World War II, gifted American soldiers were assigned to work in counterintelligence, known then as the CIC. The two most famous of these were Heinz Henry Kissinger, the Illuminati programmer, and J.D. Salinger, the one-hit wonder author of The Catcher in the Rye. Salinger witnessed the horrors of D-Day on Utah Beach and was an interrogator during the Battle of the Bulge. During these operations, over 425,000 men were killed on both sides. Salinger was responsible for interviewing captured German soldiers and local civilians, both friendly and pro-Hitler. We can assume that he witnessed torture and possibly worse. He would never speak about it. War does things to the mind, and it is a fact that Salinger came to hate the U.S. Army as much as he hated the Nazis. We know that his young mind failed him under the unending pressure of trauma after trauma. When he found himself suicidal in Europe, he checked himself into a private hospital to keep his name out of the Army medical rolls. But, once recovered, he volunteered to return for more trauma with the CIC. While we don't know the full extent of his personal involvement in counterintelligence, we do know that generally, for his work in the CIC, Salinger was cited for valor on more than one occasion, and was called a bona fide hero in the Army. Once you understand that Salinger's war record was so highly personal, his need to lock himself away for long periods of time makes more sense. He lived with the deep shame and trauma of what he witnessed and participated in. This is why so many combat veterans end up on welfare or on the street. PTSD untreated can be debilitating. Salinger wrote during the war, even during combat, the stories that became The Catcher in the Rye. Working under, or certainly with, Heinz Henry Kissinger, he was trained in various means of neuro-linguistic programming, a fancy word for brainwashing and interrogation, in order to understand, manipulate, and hopefully de-Nazi former German soldiers. This is a scientific form of spellcasting. We have already said that the Illuminati tasked their brethren in the Democrat National Socialist Party, or the Ashken Nazi Party, to find a way to do this to the masses with greatest effect.
Nazi Germany had a plan to sexualize America's children, and Nazi German scientists started working with Alfred Kinsey in the U.S., the Kinsey Institute.
The great sex researcher of the 1950s. Right?
Absolutely, and this is a man who performed sexual acts on 6-week-old babies, boys.
Having set the stage, let's break down scientific neuro-linguistic brainwashing into the 8 professional steps that clinical hypnotherapists use when treating people, since the majority of the public has not been satanically, ritualistically abused. although you might be horrified to hear that today it is believed that 1 in every 300 Americans has been, and that up to 40% of all boys and girls today worldwide have endured some form of sexual trauma and all. This reason is the greatest of their spells. Hold on to that thought for now. Get a grip, lay back, and relax. It's going to be swell.
Stop that.
Just don't get captured in the lie. Step 1. Focus human attention. While attempting to put a person or a nation into a trance-like, more suggestible state, it is necessary to capture your victim's attention. This is known as baiting and hooking in Hollywood. The most engaging movies bait you to get your attention, and then they hook you to keep it.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
I am a good boy.
It is usually done by setting up a question that the mind needs answered. The human mind, like the human body, prefers homeostasis. But, just like witches,
Sure, I know. But aren't they all witches inside?
the mind is intrinsically curious. It's a form of circular reasoning, as the question needs to be answered for the mind to rest and move forward, which is exactly what the occult does not want you to do. Also, one caution, because it is a first on our show. Hold on swears, and we are going to quote him exactly as J.D. Salinger wrote him, swear words and all. Adults can't protect little ones if they can't look into the darkness and see what is really waiting there. All they will end up doing is handing their loved ones over to Walt on his terms.
Yes, I think I'd like that.
But we did want to warn you. Here is how J.D.'s bestseller opens.
If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where was I born, and what my lousy childhood was like, and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me, and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. In the first place, that stuff bores me, and in the second place, my parents would have about 2 hemorrhages apiece if I told anything pretty personal about them. They're quite touchy about anything like that, especially my father. They're nice and all, I'm not saying that, but they're also touchy as hell. Besides, I'm not going to tell you my whole goddamn autobiography or anything. I'll just tell you about this madman stuff that happened to me around last Christmas, just before I got pretty run down and had to come out here and take it easy.
Here the questions being raised are pummeled at you so rapidly that you don't have time to settle on one before you are hit with the next. For a reader reading that, and we know you are listening to it, didn't you find your subconscious mind questioning, who is this guy? What's his name? Where was he born? Why doesn't he want me to know this? What is his heritage? What's the setup? What is all that for him? Why are his parents so touchy? What are they trying to hide? What is he trying to hide? Where is he now? Why is he mad?
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here.
But all we are given is that. I'll just tell you about this madman stuff that happened to me. If you really want to hear about it, is the same as...
I want you to stare into the spiral. You want to give me your mind. And when I count down from 5 to 0, you're going to do just that. You're going to give me your mind.
The insistence that all of this is madman stuff sets you up for consent. Hypnotic mind control, even in tortured children, only works when it is given by consent.
Do you have power?
I have power.
Does power consent? If your consent is impure, it will kill you.
We surrender. What more do you want?
To rule, there must be love. Your Your consent must be pure.
Step 2. Enhance awareness of the attention by immediate experience. In less pedestrian terms, this is the hook we are talking about. The bait gets the fish to bite without realizing that hidden in the bait is a hook. Once you are hooked, you are caught, and you are in for the ride.
Fishy, fishy, fishy!
The realization that you have been hooked is definitely an enhanced awareness, and it is by immediate experience. Perhaps you've seen hypno-entertainers speaking to a subject on the street or on the internet, and then suddenly grabbing their arms in a jerk or knocking their heads. This is the immediate experience. It has to be this immediate, as it must build on the attention, shock or hook it, and then overwhelm it. It's in this moment of chaos that the mind reaches out for rational meaning in an attempt to stay in equilibrium. Have you ever seen a person come out of a shock or a faint?
We're rolling.
Just knock me out, though.
Just go for it.
Are we really doing this?
Yes,
do it.
Slap his face.
Hey, wake up. Tim, wake up. Tim, wake up. Tim, wake up. Tim, wake up. Hey, wake up. Look at your knees. What? Get your knees on the floor. Tim, wake up.
Dude, I passed
Just
out.
stand up.
How long have you been out for? What the That was like weird.
There is a moment where the mind must make a quick assessment in order to survive. Should the body run, fight, swim, kick, punch? The mind doesn't know for a moment if it's underwater, in the mouth of a grizzly bear, been shot, or in a CPAP machine that has malfunctioned during the middle of the night. Is the body in danger, or is it not? The hypno-entertainer uses this moment of shock to offer a new normal that the brain can hold on to while it attempts to sort out the situation. So, having been baited or captured by JD, it's time to hook you, or reel you in.
Two fish?
What happens next in the book is so subtle that you hardly feel the hook in your jaw. The unnamed hypnotist, we won't learn the name of the narrator until further along, sets up the three themes: sex, murder, and secrecy. This is expertly done, while our hypnotist is standing above a schoolyard, commenting on girls, but in a homoerotic way, next to an enormous rebel's rifle, which we are told is a cannon left over from the Revolutionary War. Juxtaposed against this building sexual anger, it becomes, subconsciously, an enormous phallus pointing right at the school. This will bookend by the end, so remember it. Once you see the hook, the next step is more obvious.
There were never many girls at all at the football games. Only seniors were allowed to bring girls with them. It was a terrible school no matter how you looked at it. I like to be somewhere at least where you can see a few girls around once in a while. Even if they're only scratching their arms or blowing their noses or even just giggling or something. Old Selma Thurmer, she was the headmaster's daughter, showed up at the games quite often, but she wasn't exactly the type that drove you mad with desire. I like her. She had a big nose and her nails were all bitten down and bleedy looking, and she had on those damn falsies that point all over the place. But you felt sort of sorry for her. What I liked about her, she didn't give you a lot of horse manure about what a great guy her father was. She probably knew what a phony slob he was.
Step 3. Leading the subject into accepting the experience. If the programmed reject the hook at this phase, the hypnosis is over and the programmer has failed, so it is important that the victim accepts the hook. This is done behind the rest of JD's Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. It is here that we finally learn our hypnotist's name. Holden. Hold on. Stay hooked. And we come to accept him as we hear him relate to a kindly old professor and his wife. They are portrayed in a Christmassy manner. He is as Santa Claus, and she is as Mrs. Claus. It is here that the transference, the acceptance, becomes complete and we swallow the hook. We become, hold on, Holden.
Anyway, it was December and all, and it was as cold as a witch's teat, especially on top of that stupid hill. I only had on my reversible and no gloves or anything. The week before that, somebody had stolen my camel's hair coat right out of my room, with my fur-lined gloves right in the pocket and all. Pensy was full of crooks. Quite a few guys came from these very wealthy families, but it was full of crooks anyway. The more expensive a school is, the more crooks it has. I'm not kidding. Anyway, I kept standing next to that crazy cannon, looking down at the game and freezing my ass off. All of a sudden, I thought of something that helped make me know I was getting the hell out. I suddenly remembered this time that I and Robert and Paul were chucking a football around. It was just before dinner and it was getting pretty dark out. But we kept chucking the ball around anyway. It kept getting darker and darker, and we could hardly see the ball anymore. But we didn't want to stop doing what we were doing. If I get a chance to remember that kind of stuff, I can get a goodbye when I need one. At least most of the time I can. As soon as I got it, I turned around and started running down the other side of the hill toward old Spencer's house. He didn't live on the campus. It was icy as hell and I damn near fell down. I don't even know what I was running for. I guess I just felt like it. After I got across the road, I felt like I was sort of disappearing. It was that kind of crazy afternoon, terrifically cold, and no sun out or anything, and you felt like you were disappearing every time you crossed a road. Boy, I rang that doorbell fast when I got to old Spencer's house. I was really frozen. My ears were hurting and I could hardly move my fingers at all. Come on, I said right out loud, almost. Somebody open the door. Finally, old Mrs. Spencer opened it.
Step 4. Introducing the goal. The next step is called introducing the goal because it is understood that people have to marinate in an idea before they can accept it. In our recent international disease scare, this was set up by the constant tick of the rising death clock. We have discussed ticking clocks many times together, and all of the previous discussions about them apply here.
I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
All of us were pushed to get the
Ouch! I should be prosecuted.
Before supplies ran out, and we were the ones guilted to believe that we had killed our family and friends if we didn't conform. Do you see how this works?
This is urgent. It's going to have to go to 7 billion people.
Caught in the rye with the book, and having gained sympathy to the point that we have merged with the hypnotist.
I want you to stare into the spiral. You want to give me your mind.
We are ready to hear the goal in preparation to accept it. Here is the goal.
I'm the most terrific liar you ever saw in your life. It's awful. If I'm on my way to the store to buy a magazine even, and somebody asks me where I'm going, I'm liable to say I'm going to the opera.
Lies and deception is the goal. This makes sense and should stand as the warning to the reader. You are reading a book about a liar and a manipulator. This is in fact what the worst hypnotist is. A liar attempting to convince you of a mythology that is intended to become your new reality. Salinger said that this book was an adult book, but it was into our public schools and became a book for teenagers. When you read the book and experienced all of the subconscious angst, rage, and arousal, how many of you ran home and told your pastor or your parents about your new inner normal? Yeah, I thought so. You, merging with hold on, became a liar inside too. Now it's time to lock it, or reel you, in. Step 5. Reinforcing the goal through repetition. It is the reinforcement of the goal, becoming a liar, or a justifiable phony, so you can lie about your new inner dialogue of angst, rage, and sexual arousal. As you bring these forward toward the end goal of becoming a murderer and a pedophile, in the ancient pagan tradition, this is the new normal that is to come next. This is done hypnotically through repetition. Note these truncated examples with our patented snide but truthful commentary interruptions to illuminate the not always so obvious.
Where I lived at Kinsey. I lived in the Ossenberger Memorial Wing of the new dorms. It was only for juniors and seniors. I was a junior. My roommate was a senior. It was named after this guy Ossenberger that went to Kinsey.
Did you hear it? It's chiasmic. Kinsey, Ossenberger, junior, senior, Ossenberger, Kinsey. It's needless repetition, but it's also a circle and becomes a cage or a net as the logic turns in on itself. You think Kinsey, Ossenberger, junior, senior, Ossenberger, Kinsey, Ossenberger, junior, senior, Ossenberger, Kinsey, Ossenberger, junior, senior, Ossenberger, Kinsey, and so on. Hold on. Stay hooked.
Mr. Ossenberger made a pot of dough in the undertaking business after he got out of Kinsey. What he did, he started these undertaking parlors all over the country that you could get members of your family buried for about $5 a piece. You should see old Ossenberger.
In other words, see him. Now.
He probably just shoves them in a sack and dumps them in a river.
Here is the reinforcement of the goal. Liar. Ossenberger. Pretends to be a great man who gives to the Shriner Hospital.
Did you say that you are Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay,
what about those hospitals?
But he is really successful because he is a liar. Proof that we are on the right track is found in the name. Ossen in mammals means still forming. A mammal that is still forming is a child. Thus, his name is Childburger.
I'm going to show you how McDonald's builds a Big Mac sandwich.
We take the children of our enemy, which is the white race, and we bring them to the basements in the synagogues where we drain the blood and watch them die there. It's very similar to how we do the sacrifices that we do with the kosher butchering, and so we do that, and then we mix it with the Passover bread, and so we eat the blood of our enemies. And the bodies, we're not cannibals, so what we do is we take those, because we can make some shekels, and we give them to the slaughterhouses, and those are pounds and pounds and pounds of meat that we grind up in the sausage and the hamburger, and that's why we made those the most popular thing, sausage for breakfast and hamburger for lunch. And so all the goyim out here are really eating their children. And even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem.
There is death in them there burgers. See it again. The anger over the burger, the arousal, is connected to death. And worse. Anger, like arousal, must climax to release. While it is a tasteless dollar menu item here, it is useful to mention that Salinger's father made his money in the kosher meat and cheese business in New York. It was this business that his father originally wanted JD to enter into as his only son. Daddy Salinger was Jewish, even if not a practicing one, in New York City.
I mean, we steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country, and we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread, and then we throw the bodies into the slaughterhouses that we own and watch them die there. It's very similar to how we do the sacrifices that we do with the kosher butchering.
At a future time, we will discuss the need for meat to carry a kosher approval seal after 1933.
Well, there was a goyim that wrote a book about it back in the 30s. I forget his name at the moment. Anyway, he wrote the book. People didn't buy the book. People don't want to listen.
Why is this necessary, with the USDA standards, which are already the highest in the world? What might be in non-kosher meat that might be a concern?
And the bodies, we're not cannibals. So what we do is we take those, because we can make some shekels, and we give them to the slaughterhouses, and those are pounds and pounds and pounds of meat that we grind up in the sausage and the hamburger, and that's why we made those the most popular thing, sausage for breakfast and hamburger for lunch. And so all the goyim out here are really eating their children. McDonald's is one of our favorite outlets, and the people, they eat it for breakfast, they eat their children for lunch. You know, us Jews, you know, we gotta do what we do.
But in the mealtime, hear it again. J.D. struggled terribly with what he called phonies. Speaking through young Holden, he continually says that we need to, because our anger, like our arousal, needs a release if it is to live in truth, as wacky as that sounds to adults. While it is pushing a stereotype, it's true, which can be unfair. I always found it fascinating when debating morality with my many Jewish friends, that for many of them, the debate always ended when they said, "But he made a lot of money doing that." Shekels can be shekels, since our Lord warned us that money is the root of all evil.
Anyway, he gave Pensy a pile of dough, and they named our wing after him.
Yeah, we know, J.D., you've said this about 27 times. But it is the shock between the two, after being hit by the horrific lie that sweet old Ossenberger, who gives money to children, made his money by throwing the corpse of your beloved grandmother in a sack and dumping her corpse in the river. You are shocked. Back away from it, before you can process it with,
The first football game of the year, he came up to school in this big goddamn Cadillac, and we all had to stand up in the grandstand and give him a locomotive. That's a cheer. Then the next morning, in chapel, he made a speech that lasted about 10 hours. He started off with about 50 corny jokes just to show us what a regular guy he was.
Reinforcement. He's a liar. Be a liar. Success comes from lying. That's what a phony does.
Very big deal. Then he started telling us how he was never ashamed.
Really? He's never ashamed? He's not ashamed of being a liar? A phony? Why? He's rich. Shekels, dollars, are more important.
When he was in some kind of trouble or something, to get right down on his knees and pray to God. He told us we should always pray to God, talk to him and all, wherever we were. He told us we ought to think of Jesus as our buddy and all. He said he talked to Jesus all the time, even when he was driving his car. That killed me.
Religion, God, Jesus, Christianity. Remember we told you, the occult says that when you need an escape, look to Jesus, but stay in the occult, where we worship Lucifer. If questioned, your inner liar is to say, "It's so funny that it slayed me." But that is the double meaning here. This is saying, die to the old and be born into the new. Hold on, son or daughter. Can't you see that rich people make their success off of lies and murder? The book will go on to add Christian monogamy to the list of what must be killed within you. This is replaced with sexuality, promiscuity, more specifically prostitution, homosexuality, and pedophilia, and is read by every high schooler in America just as they are emerging into adult sexuality.
Oh boy! I can just see this big phony bastard shifting into first gear and asking Jesus to send him a few more stiffs.
It's nearly 300 pages of the same, and all. But we aren't done pointing them out quite yet. Step 6. Encouraging disassociation and involuntary responses to the goal.
I am a good boy.
Once the victim has taken the bait, become hooked, taught the goals of their capture, and had them repeated and circularly reinforced, the plan is for the trigger that has been set to function as a command in a disassociated way and involuntarily. We have said numerous times that this is easier to do to children who have been ritually traumatized, but the effect can also work on the public if they are not mindful.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It's time to get another booster. Act, don't think. Obey, don't question. Do as you are told to do.
Are you or a loved one suffering from a medical coincidence? At the Kaufman Institute for Coincidence, we promise to only look at your symptoms. We won't get all curious looking for causes, because that could get your employer or your doctor into some legal hot water. And nobody wants that. At Kaufman, we understand that coincidence is now the leading cause of death.
Hey, we've got another coincidence over here.
If we want to operate at the speed of science, there's no time for looking for causes. No pesky questions about drugs or vaccines you may have been given. At Kaufman, we specialize in the effects and leave the causes to the conspiracy theorists. And let's be honest, we know the cause anyway. It was a coincidence, right? For each new patient, Kaufman's talented team of doctors strap on their blinders and look directly at the problem area, usually the heart, just like the CDC recommends. Kaufman, because coincidences happen pretty much all the time.
Official medical coincidence partner of the NFL.
Our Hypnosis author continues as we are triggered to accept our new hat, the kappa of our new belief system, and our new view. The dialogue changes from being more probably, likely, should, could, and all, to command phrases. I, do, will, always, must, and so on.
It was pretty nice to get back to my room after I left old Spencer, because everybody was down at the game and the heat was on in our room for a change. It felt sort of cozy. I took off my coat and my tie and unbuttoned my shirt collar.
In other words, a subconscious striptease in a cozy nest-like room with no chance of being discovered. He, the hypnotist, is reading a book just like you are now. In other words, hold on. This is you, and you are, in reality, doing this. Sit back and see what happens.
I took off my clothes, and I put on this hat that I had bought in New York that morning. It was this red hunting hat with one of those very, very long peaks. I saw it in the window of this sports store. It only cost me $1. The way I wore it, I swung the old peak way around to the back. Very corny, I'll admit, but I liked it that way. I looked good in it. Then I got this book that I was reading and sat down in my chair. I'd read it already, but I wanted to read certain parts over again. I'd only read about 3 pages, though, when I heard somebody coming through the shower curtains. Even without looking up, I knew right away who it was. It was Robert Ackley, this guy that roomed right next to me. He's one of these very, very tall, round-shouldered guys. He was about 6'4".
All commands, no induction, no permissive words. Did you see that? You are to see a warm room, 2 boys, one dressed only in a towel, wet, shiny, steamy skin, round shoulders, tall, big, manly, and you, reading this book. You are smaller, submissive, in a chair in your nest, where subconsciously you too are naked, and are wearing only a hunting hat. But just before your mind hits that, oh, this is kind of off-putting, see how you are shocked, again, now into hypnosis.
I took off my clothes, but I liked it that way. I looked good when I heard somebody coming through the shower curtains. This guy that roomed right next to me. He's one of these very, very tall, round-shouldered guys. He was about 6'4", with lousy teeth. The whole time he roomed next to me, I never even once saw him brush his teeth. They always looked mossy and awful. And he damn near made you sick if you saw him in the dining room with his mouth full of mashed potatoes and peas or something. Besides that, he had a lot of pimples. Not just on his forehead or his chin, like most guys, but all over his face. Not only that, he had a terrible personality. He was also sort of a nasty guy. I wasn't too crazy about him, to tell you the truth.
Do you see how it works? It's okay for you to embrace the moment of forbidden homoeroticism, because just at the point of consciousness, you are taken back to a place of relief. It's okay to notice his sexuality because you would never actually kiss this older boy, naked, round shoulders, buff, because his mouth is so gross and his face is gross, even though it was his body that was starting to work you over. But note the bookend lock-in for the trigger.
He's one of these very, very tall, round-shouldered guys. He was also sort of a nasty guy. I wasn't too crazy about him, to tell you the truth.
Hold on now. Holden doesn't tell the truth. He, like you, is a liar now. You did see his wet, sexy shoulders, and you are crazy a bit. At least you didn't have to accept that just yet. But watch what he does half naked and sexy in a wet towel in your space, where you are warm and cozy, and reading this very book.
He came down off the shower ledge and came in the room. "Hi," he said. He always said it like he was terrifically bored or terrifically tired. He didn't want you to think he was visiting you or anything. He wanted you to think he'd come in by mistake, for God's sake.
Ah, so he's a liar too. Just remember that.
He started walking around the room, very slow and all, the way he always did, picking up your personal stuff.
What? My personal stuff? In my personal space? My personal junk? Off my desk? Whose desk? Your desk. Oh, my desk. This is me going through it. This is me being hypnotized. Do you see it?
He always picked up your personal stuff and looked at it. Boy, could he get on your nerves sometimes. I sneaked a look to see what he was fiddling around with on my chest of drawers. He was looking at this picture of this girl.
Oh, whew. Just in time, girls. He likes girls. So do you, remember?
This girl I used to go around with in New York. He must have picked up that goddamn picture and looked at it at least 5,000 times since I got it. He always put it back in the wrong place, too, when he was finished. He did it on purpose. You could tell.
He always put it back in the wrong place, too, when he was finished. He did that on purpose. You could tell. He always put it back in the wrong place. Where is the right place? Not in the back end, apparently. But anyway, he did it on purpose. Oh, come on, you say. No, wait. Hold on, dude. He did it on purpose. You can tell. Now that it's put in your back, hold on. You start to get mad.
All I see is red now. Since we've been over, it won't stop. All I see is red now.
All you see is red.
I don't know, and I don't give a damn. How about sitting down or something, Ackley kid? You're right in my goddamn light. He didn't like it when you called him Ackley kid. He was always telling me I was a goddamn kid because I was 16 and he was 18. It drove him mad when I called him Ackley kid.
Now note JD's power of word plays. At this he was masterful. Ackley, acne, Ackley, acne. He's naked, in your light, in your personal space. We are naked too. Subconsciously, he's a hunk. And then kid, acne. See how spells work?
He kept standing there. He was exactly the kind of guy who wouldn't get out of your light when you asked him to. He'd do it finally, but it took him a lot longer if you asked him to. "What the hell you reading?" he said. "Goddamn book." He shoved my book back with his hand so he could see the name of it. Any good? He said. This sentence I'm reading is terrific. I can be quite sarcastic when I'm in the mood. He didn't get it, though. He started walking around the room again, picking up all my personal stuff and Stradlators. Finally, I put my book down on the floor. You couldn't read anything with a guy like Ackley around anyway. It was impossible.
It might be good to be straddled later, particularly with all that acne on your face.
I slid way the hell down in my chair and watched old Ackley making himself at home. Then I started horsing around a little bit. Sometimes I horse around quite a lot, just to keep from getting bored. What I did was I pulled the old peak of my hunting hat around to the front, then I pulled it way down over my eyes. That way I couldn't see a goddamn thing. I think I'm going blind, I said in a very hoarse voice.
It was a common warning to boys a few decades back to tell them that they would go blind if they masturbated, or they would start growing hair on their palms. Since JD has been setting us up with inner arousal, he needs to address the myth to lower the fear. No young prep school boy with nothing but pin-up girls on his chest or drawers, surrounded by naked men coming out of the shower, unable to concentrate on his studies because some guy is touching his personal junk in his personal space, can stress over whether or not he might go blind. I realize what you are thinking, but note the text.
I think I'm going blind, I said in a very hoarse voice. You're nuts, I swear to God, Ackley said. Give me your hand, I cried. Why won't you give me your hand? For Christ's sake, grow up, he said. I started groping around in front of me, like a blind guy, but without getting up or anything. I kept saying, Darling, why won't you give me your hand? I was only horsing around naturally.
See it? Now rising up in your mind? It's natural. Naturally.
I was only horsing around naturally.
Don't release yet, though. We have more programming to give you, so hold on. After you, hold on, has held on with either Acne's naked hand or your own, despite your nuts, madness, and you've had it put in your back, the wrong place, and you've gotten bad, what do? You are to remember the sodomy rage. This is part of the programming. And sure enough, he or you does.
That stuff gives me a bang sometimes. Besides, he always brought out the old sadist in me. I was pretty sadistic with him quite often. I pulled the peak around to the back again, relaxed. He started cleaning his goddamn fingernails with the end of a match.
Wait, why are his hands dirty? He just got out of the shower. Oh, that's right, he's been touching my personal junk in my back end. My conscious mind forgot. But let's see if I get mad about it.
He started cleaning his goddamn fingernails with the end of a match. He took another look at my hat while he was cleaning them. Up home we wear a hat like that to shoot deer in, for Christ's sake, he said. That's a deer shooting hat. Like hell it is. I took it off and looked at it. I sort of closed one eye, like I was taking aim at it. This is a people shooting hat. I said, I shoot people in this hat.
That is the basic program. Now that it has been learned and consented to, you are still reading the book at this point. The test is to see if you will automatically anticipate the trigger, expect it, and do as commanded. And so, we set up the stakes for you in step 7. Remember, but? Step 7. Building anticipation and expectation. We need not really say that the greatest means of keeping something in the forefront of any human attention is the powerful sense of anticipation or expectation. We all know that this is true. The excitement of the run-up to Christmas morning, the terror of a vampire movie, the wondering when our intended will finally pop the question, the ascent up a roller coaster, are all relatable realities. All humankind knows that anticipation and expectation are powerful forces. When used on purpose, the goal is simple. It is Pavlov and Rovorovich.
I am a good boy.
Once you have conditioned your dog, you can trigger him, and then you have his complete attention.
Bark.
When you have done it right,
Woof. That's awful. Do it properly. Woof, woof. Louder. Woof, woof. That's good.
you also have his mind space as well.
Do it again. Fetch.
It should be no surprise to say that the deeper a victim's attention, the more likely the master will gain the expectation assigned to the anticipation. So far, we have been conditioned to accept Hold-On's voice as our own, and we have been taken through setups, preconditioning, of inner angst, sexuality in pagan form, and murder. Any guilt, fear, or shame that we have felt in our preconditioning is projected at phonies and liars in society. Did you catch it? Hold on, Holden. This has been connected to sexual aggression, with the only release being murder in the guise of orgasmic release. Every hunter has his gun, and every sexual predator has his wizard's wand. Next, we will be tested with scenes where male roommates lie on our beds, wear our clothes, and talk about girls they have done, all while interjecting words like, "Boy, was she great."
She's a boy!
Whatever! That doesn't prove anything! Princesses can be hairy!
Yeah!
And calling these by their genderless last names, such as, "Boy, the last time I did Ferguson." This is the Baphomet.
Princesses can be hairy!
Swell, boy, just swell. We are commanded. Hold on, in first person, as us, focusing on our penises in anticipation while male footsteps come down the hall, while offering liquor and ogling older married women, while playing the voyeur as men dressed in drag, and while naked couples squirt liquid on each other. All of this along with the occasional inserted forward play, we say.
I mean, that's my big trouble. In my mind, I'm probably the biggest sex maniac you ever saw. Sometimes I can think of very crummy stuff I wouldn't mind doing if the opportunity came up. I can even see how it might be quite a lot of fun.
We really shouldn't be doing this.
Oh boy! See, all you gotta do is rub that lamp, and I'll say, Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be?
Shh! He'll hear you. You better come clean.
And this one.
I knew this one girl a couple years ago that was even crummier than I was. Boy, we had a lot of fun. Sex is something I really don't understand too hot. You never know where the hell you are. I keep making up these sex rules for myself, and then I break them right away. Last year, I made a rule that I was going to quit horsing around with girls. That deep down gave me a pain in the ass. Boy.
There's heavy ammunition in your camp.
All I see is red now. Since we've been over, it won't stop. All I see is
there's heavy ammunition in your camp.
This pattern continues again and again in the book, setting the programming into the subconscious of millions of American teenagers. Hear it here. I knew this one. Boy, we had a lot of fun. I knew this one. Boy, we had a lot of fun. You never know where the hell you are. In the back or front. I keep making up these sex rules for myself, and then I break them right away. Last year I made a rule that I was going to quit horsing around with girls. That deep down gave me a pain in the ass. Oh boy.
Oh boy!
Nope, this one.
I sat down in a chair and smoked a couple of cigarettes. I was feeling pretty horny, I have to admit it. Then, all of a sudden, I got this idea. I took out my wallet and started looking for this address. A guy I met at a party last summer that went to Princeton gave me. Finally, I found it. It was all a funny color from my wallet, but you could still read it. It was the address of this girl that wasn't exactly a whore or anything, but that didn't mind doing it once in a while.
We call her up and get rebuffed. Boy, was that rough. The next person we are told about in first-person narration is our 10-year-old sister, old Phoebe. Is she old enough? This is a setup that is basically passed over with the hope that on our next turn of the carousel, we will be quicker to accept Phoebe's openness after having blown it or fouled it up with the adults, with a quick shock to sink it in, we are told.
While I was changing my shirt, I damn near gave my kid sister Phoebe a buzz. I couldn't take a chance on giving her a buzz because she was only a little kid. But that wouldn't have worked either. They'd know it was me. My mother always knows it's me. She's psychic. But I certainly wouldn't have minded shooting the crap with old Phoebe for a while. You should see her. You never saw a little kid so pretty in your whole life. But you ought to see old Phoebe. She has this sort of red hair. She sticks it behind her ears. She has nice, pretty little ears. In the wintertime, she's only 10. She's quite skinny. Nice skinny. Roller skate skinny. You'd like her. The only trouble is, she's a little too affectionate sometimes. She's 10 now, and not such a tiny little kid anymore, but she still kills everybody. Everybody with any sense, anyway. So I just finished putting on my shirt.
Do you see it? Can you hear it? Are you waking up? Remember Jewish Mossad agent Jeffrey Epstein? Again and again, violence, shooting, death, and killing are worked in. Then they are connected together. Hold on. To the point that you expect it to be there, and sure enough, eventually, if you wait and anticipate it long enough, there it is. This was planned. But why? Hold on. At this point, we have only gotten through half of this book, but it is fair to say that after having screwed around with the boys, it's time to try our hands on the girls and see if we have learned anything from our programming session. The last step in any hypnosis spell is exactly the same. Step 8. Accepting any and all successes and using them for reinforcement the next time. And thus, the ritual begins again, building on what worked and the lessons learned from it. The self-absorbed great Masonic Illuminati teacher, Albert Pike, hold that name for Chapter 18 when we will meet him in the book, said that World War I was the setup for World War II, and that World War II would only be necessary if World War I failed to create the worldwide new normal that it was designed to create, a one-world pseudo-Zion government, based out of a unified Jerusalem. If World War II also failed to do it, World War III would most definitely be the final one needed. Having basically reached the midpoint of the book, we are going to revisit the morals again to better lock them in the victim, the reader's mind. This is you. All of this is done for the ultimate goal, Luciferian Armageddon Programming, which we will explore soon. But we have stayed a long time in the darkness and need a break. So it's time to go back through the water curtain.
Go. Fetch him up. Drop. There we go. That's a good dog. That's a good boy.
we have explored how a young New York Jew, trained in passive mind control for the masses, used what he had learned in the CIC, which became the Army-controlled CIA. We see evidence of neuro-linguistic programming used in the first half of this book to great effect. And here we have our clue as to what Salinger was trying to either warn us about or trying to program us with. Don't forget the Judas Clause. And thus it is entirely possible that his goal was both.
Well, that's true, but it's not for you Goyim to know, but right now it's too late. It's over for you, white race. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly here, to bring it out into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You've been teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? You don't get a lot of followers, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews.
The Lord God Yahweh warned us to watch out for the synagogue of Satan. And as war is looking inevitable in the Middle East, we had better wake up, or we will find that we have Judases in our midst. More to come. Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Masters Mahan will be back.
And a shout-out thank you to YouTuber Urban8499 for getting the word out. Dude, we are proud of you. Keep it up. I have just one request. Is 3 times enough to listen? 4 may be your magic number. Thank you. Get the rest of them up. And more to come. You are now listening to the Masters Mahan podcast. Episode 20, Armageddon Programming, Part 1. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you have been abused or are a minor, you should stop now. This episode builds on the previous ones. In our last 2 previous episodes, we built on our introduction to spellcasting by examining the first half of J.D. Salinger's one-hit wonder book, The Catcher in the Rye. While it is true we could have picked more modern examples from any of the public figures outed by self-admitted Illumis Dan Reynolds, lead singer of the band Pretend You Are a Reptilian Hybrid Moron.
Okay guys, the time has come. Just gonna break it quick, clean, get it done with. Doesn't matter that I signed a butt of. Doesn't matter anymore. The Illuminati's real. I'm a member. It's how Imagine Dragons got famous. I'm tired of the politics. I believe in full honesty, and Beyonce's not talking Chris Martin. Nobody's saying a word, so There it is. There, there. I'm going to give you all the details as quick as I can. The president, Elon Musk, vice president, Harry Styles, treasurer, Beyonce, Taylor Swift is historian, and that's all I know. That's all I know.
Or many of the entertainers outed by Isaac Cappy before his convenient death. You may want to look that up on the internet. It is actually more important to build a base of understanding, since today we have fallen so far down Alice's rabbit hole that we have actually reached the Emerald City of the Queen of Hearts.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler.
Today, we live in Pastiche. The occultists say that it is for
mind control.
But they play word games, so it could actually be both, and they would be fine with that. They love secrets and wordplays. They love them. It's a passion that's kind of sick with them. It's foolish to think that it's one and not the other. It's probably both and 3 other things too. Wordplays are spells, since the double and triple meaning ring in the mind.
I am a good boy.
While most modern bimbos and numbnuts don't realize it, we have actually reached the final stages of Pastiche, from which nothing but a dangerous dose of reality can free us.
There's no place like home.
Thus, we have chosen to unmask the foundations before attacking the bricks. Because
My name's Patty. I'll be testing you.
plus.
Any questions?
Yeah, one. Have you always been a chick? I mean, I don't want to offend you, but you were born a man, weren't you? You can tell me. I'm open-minded.
Boys are boys from the beginning. When you're born a boy baby, you grow to be a bigger boy and then a man. Girls are girls right from the start. When you're born a girl baby, you grow to be a bigger girl and then a woman.
This Easter Sunday has been designated as a Transgender Day of Visibility.
Only girls can be the mommies. Only boys can be the daddies.
So a guy can become a girl with no physical changes at all.
They were always a girl.
Unless they decide they're guys again.
In which case, they were always guys.
So I can be a woman on the court and a man in the bedroom. I can't believe it. Nice!
Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
It is true that a shocking percentage of high-profile assassins have held up The Catcher in the Rye as their Bible, the book they felt more than any other as being the one they most closely identified with when
all I see is
they bent over, and then all they could see is red. Over the next 2 episodes, we will finish our analysis of this book and reveal the ultimate spell which it is attempting to invoke on the public, and reinforce in the robot children programmed by the Illuminati by stepping into the darkness, by equipping with the programmed. If a body, catch a baby coming through the rye.
In a body, meet a body, coming through the rye. In a body, kiss a body, need a body, cry. Coming through the rye, poor body, coming through the rye. Should drag out of her petticoat, coming through the rye.
Il calare has his lassie, needless say I, yet all the lassies smile at me when coming through the rye.
By the end of the last episode, we had only gotten halfway through the book, but it is fair to say that after having received all of the programming necessary for the end-time goal,
Kill John Lennon! Kill John Lennon! Kill John Lennon! Kill John Lennon! Hey
Lennon live?
John Lennon's dad, Butters.
Ah, dang it.
It is now time to test the program, accept any successes, and then build on these to lock the program in. This is the last step in the process that we studied in episode 19, called step number 8 by hypnotherapists. 8 in ancient thinking is the new dawn, a form of rebirth, whether vaginally or encall. Hold that thought for now. Step 8. Accepting any and all successes and using them for reinforcement the next time. And thus, the ritual begins again, building on what worked and the lessons learned from the first 7 steps. The great self-absorbed Masonic Illuminati teacher, Albert Pike, we will be meeting him soon, said that World War I was the setup for World War II, and that World War II would only be necessary if World War I failed to create the worldwide new normal that it was designed to create.
The First World War was to be fought so as to enable the Illuminati to destroy Tsarism in Russia, as vowed by Rothschild after the Tsar had torpedoed his scheme at the Congress in Vienna, and to transform Russia into a stronghold of atheistic communism. The differences stirred up by agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires were to be used to foment this war. After the war would be ended, communism was to be built up and used to destroy other governments and weaken religions. World War II, when and if necessary, was to be fomented by using the controversies between fascists and political Zionists. In short, this Second World War was to be fought to destroy Nazism and to increase the power of political Zionism so that the State of Israel could be established in Palestine. During this World War II, international communism was to be built up until it equaled in strength that of united Christendom. When it reached that point, it was to be contained and kept in check until required for the final social cataclysm.
Basically, a one-world pseudo-Zion government based out of a unified Jerusalem. If World War II also failed to do it, World War III would most definitely be the final one needed. And thus we come to the moral of what the book is trying to say and trying to teach and trying to program. The catcher lurking in the Rye lie. Having basically reached the midpoint in this book, our programmer is going to attempt to lock the lessons in via repetition and practice in order to create the specific goal. Let's see if we can figure it out by using a few truncated examples from the second half of the book to both prove our point and discover the goal of our national programming. It is hoped that by seeing more of this correctly, we can sidestep some of what the occult has planned for us, while we can still reject the program, either culturally, nationally.
It's over for you, white race. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly here, to bring it out into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You've been teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? You don't get a lot of followers, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews.
But more likely now, individually. If our author Judy Salinger has done his job correctly, we will find ourselves in a deeper trance of acceptance. See if this time you can recognize the game being played on you halfway in. Up to this point, we have been induced into accepting our natural sexuality as a building rage with arousal being connected to violence.
I want you to stare into the spiral.
Snap! The job's a game!
All of a sudden, I got old Jane Gallagher on the brain again. I got her on, and I couldn't get her off. I really got to know her quite intimately. I don't mean it was anything physical or anything, it wasn't, but we saw each other all the time. You don't always have to get too sexy to get to know a girl. She was a funny girl, old Jane. I wouldn't exactly describe her as strictly beautiful. She knocked me out, though.
If we inserted episode 18 in you correctly, and we really did try to get you to come to the correct conclusion, you should now be able to see the same pattern yet again. You, as Holden, were placed in a trance, a state of suspension, held on, or hold on, as you were programmed to objectify boys in a feminine, sexual way. The alpha dog...
Bark.
Are you joking?
Don't talk back to me. You may only say, yes, master. Now walk around the room like a dog.
I am a good boy.
Is the only beast who mounts both males and females. He is...
I am Oz, the great and powerful.
We start with the boy's butt. The first time, having broken down our sexual borders with boys in trance, it is now time to try our hand by continuing on the girls, which feels less forbidden now, even though it is not.
No means no, Grandma.
Here we lust over Jane by putting her on us and being unable to get her off us. But just as our brains begin to visualize this...
All of a sudden, I got old Jane Gallagher on the brain again. I got her on, and I couldn't get her off.
And we admit that we know her intimately, in the present tense. We are out of it by saying, oh, not sexually, so don't think that, you dirty-minded prick of a prude. But understand that we did think it subconsciously, and note that it is impossible to not think a thought, just as you can't prove a negative. Try it yourself. Here's an example. Now, it's very important that you follow my instructions exactly now in order for this to work. Take a deep breath and let your mind clear, unless you're listening to this podcast while you are driving or doing something dangerous, then don't do that. I mean, duh. Now, as I tell you the following story, it is absolutely crucial that you don't and never allow yourself to think about a white polar bear. Here we go. Once upon a time... Now, wait a second. We need to pause a quick minute and make sure you understand. Are you thinking about a white polar bear? Because you can't for this to work. If you start to see his fluffy white fur and his cute face, white polar bears do have really cute faces, even though they can be really dangerous, especially if they are hungry. And it's those images of their white fluffy fur and cute white polar bear faces that will completely ruin the story. So it's crucial that we make certain that you do not think about one right now, or the important story we are trying to share with you will fail and you'll miss this very important lesson. Okay, take it seriously. Once upon a time, in the snowy cold tundra of the Arctic North, where so few animals can eke out a living. Are you thinking about the white polar bear? Because you'd better stop it. You're ruining my story. Now, where were we? Boy, I wish you were a better person and could follow instructions. Do you have any idea how much work goes into these episodes and how many shekels we are losing doing these for free? At least you could do us the honor of our one request that we have ever made of you, and that is not to think of a fluffy white polar bear while we tell this important moral story for your edification. Oh, you're so weak. Just like a mother polar bear after she's been hibernating all winter in the cold Arctic while her two little cubs suck away 1/3 of her body fat because she wakes up and has to lead them across the snowy cold Arctic tundra in search of an unexpected seal. Hopefully now you'll respect my one request of you and not think of her so I can teach you this morally important lesson. Now, where were we? Oh, we had just said don't think of a white... Okay, here we are on the white tundra without any polar bears in your mind. Once upon a time, in the snowy cold tundra of the Arctic North, where so few animals can eke out a living, a lone, white, furry seal sat near her hole in the ice. She was totally unsuspecting of the danger that was slowly creeping up on her, inch by inch, and ever so slowly. It licked its lips as it anticipated sinking its teeth into that furry... Are you thinking of the forbidden thought now? Okay, don't do it. Fat, blubbery flesh. She couldn't see her coming attack because of the white fluffy fur, which camouflaged her attacker against the white fluffy snow. Suddenly, it pounced, but the seal flipped into the waterhole at the last possible moment. Poor Nanook of the North and his little Eskimo cubs were going to be so hungry tonight. But at least they had warm bear skins to wrap themselves in. These weren't polar bear skins, so don't think that. These were synthetic bear skins they had bought at Kmart before they closed the Alaska stores the Christmas before. Okay, do you see how it works? Judy Salinger is doing the exact same thing to you here. He gets away with it because he tells you that he is not doing that, and thus you are the prick for thinking it, and daring to think it.
I want you to listen to me. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
You are the one with the dirty mind, not Bill or Hillary Clinton.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate.
Or even George Bush.
When are you going to apologize for the million Iraqis that are dead because you lied? You sent me to Iraq in 2003. My friends are dead.
Because they told you what their intentions are, and they know that you can't not think a thought, since they have spellcasted openly.
Governor Bush, what political philosopher or thinker do you most identify with and why?
Christ, because he changed my heart.
Hardy har har.
What comes next after this programming is veiled proof that Judy knew that the source of his programming was the Jewish Masonic wing of the New World Order. He got his book publishing contract because he, like Uncle Walt, was willing to pipe the Pied Piper's tune. Watch for it as we continue.
I remember this one afternoon. It was the only time old Jane and I ever got close to necking even. It was a Saturday and it was raining like a bastard out.
I'm busted.
And I was over at her house on the porch. They had this big screened-in porch. We were playing checkers. I used to kid her once in a while, but I didn't kid her much though. You never wanted to kid Jane too much. I think I really like it best when you can kid the pants off of a girl. When the opportunity arises. But it's a funny thing. The girls I like best are the ones I never feel much like kidding. Sometimes I think they'd like it if you kidded them. In fact, I know they would.
No means no for Elmo.
But it's hard to get started. Once you've known them a pretty long time and never kidded them. Anyway, I was telling you about that afternoon Jane and I came close to necking.
Can you now hear and see it? A Gentile's children are the currency of the elitists, Semitic or otherwise. They, like Jeffrey Epstein, like to kid the pants off a girl. Let's see if any
I am a good boy
violence comes next.
Jane did something that just about knocked me out. The newsreel was on or something, and all of a sudden I felt this hand on the back of my neck, and it was Jane's. It was a funny thing to do. I mean, she was quite young and all, and most girls, if you see them putting their hand on the back of somebody's neck, they're around 25 or 30, and usually they're doing it to their husband or their little kid. I do it to my kid's sister Phoebe once in a while, for instance. But if a girl's quite young and all, and she does it, it's so pretty it just about kills you.
Kill John Lennon.
Nothing quite like a to nail it home.
Oh boy!
Yes, I think I'd like that.
We are once again given several chapters about how everyone is a liar. You can sense the post-traumatic stress disorder
I am a good boy
that J.D. suffered after the war when he wrote and rewrote these chapters, but that is a sidestep. After repeating and expanding the themes pre-programmed in the first hypno session, we see them again and we are tested. Of interest to the larger moral of this therapy session is the introduction of two people. The first is described as the arrogant bastard,
I'm busted,
Albert Pike. Albert Pike is considered by many to be the greatest esoteric Mason to have ever lived. after Al Esther Crowley, of course, who is believed to be the real father of Barbara Bush.
I'm busted.
The wife of High
I am Oz.
George Daddy Bush.
What is at stake is a big idea, a new world order.
We'll talk about Al Esther Douchebag Crowley at another time. Other than Al Pike, whom Judy has little respect for, the other man he speaks at length about is Mr. Carl Luce. His name literally means the free man of light. And of course, Luce is the slang name for Lucifer.
I've spoken of 1,000 points of light.
Dream and 1,000 points of light.
All the rhetoric you used to hear, the 1,000 points of light. What the hell was that, by the way? 1,000 points of light. I never quite got that one. I'm trying to say, what the hell is that? Has anyone ever figured that one out?
While possessing Al Esther Crowley, old Luce gave the occult his one and only commandment. You are free to do as you wish, anything you wish. This will be my only law.
As Jews, we gotta do what we do.
Christians and all law-abiding humans are not free to do as they wish. Real Jews and real Christians are to follow the Ten Commandments as given to Moses and everyone else, or at least the 7 Commandments as given to Noah. So humanity can't do whatever they wish. They can't murder children, rape people, mess with DNA, force people into smart city concentration camps, rig elections, and otherwise do whatever they wish. They can't party and dance and drink blood like a vampire.
And we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler.
Or eat people like a Canabal.
My father, who's not your father, my father Yahweh, who isn't your father, of course your father is talked about by my father in John 8:44, stating that your father was Satan and that you're the descendant of Cain, who was the first murderer. And you know that's true because you teach it in your synagogue. Well, that's true, but it's not for you Goyim to know. But right now it's too late. It's over for you, white race.
No human on earth is okay just as they are. All weaknesses were given to man by his Creator to lead us to truth. It is only through obedience and sacrifice that man can be reborn en Kal. And all. The ultimate sacrifice is, of course, our sin nature, called the inner beast. The natural man, or Darwinism, and the silly woman.
But aren't they all witches inside?
Laden with sin by God in his law. The Luciferians among us are teaching something different. Hear the message in this warped sermon and understand it.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away. They say if we don't like your broken parts. I learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away. They say no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. One in a million, you got to burn the shine. Born under a bad sun with a blue moon in your eye.
Now, note this carefully. These words are not accidental, and that is your clue. The Luciferians teach that the ultimate destruction is being returned to dust by the Father God on the Day of Judgment, or the second death. But they tell themselves they have a secret weapon because they are glorious. Listen to the words here. It is a call to action, but a call against whom?
When the time cut me down. Put the sin in the back on a drowning mind. is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
You can create any world you wish in pastiche. It is always the end goal of all mythos, and it works very effectively, but only on human beings. The fake story being told here resonates because it is connected to bullying, which most of us can relate to, having either done it or had it done to us, or both. But note the conclusion. The conclusion is war. Hear it here for yourself and understand. As soon as one objects to this violent message, one is accused of hate and supporting bullies. See how you are set up?
We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them.
Here we are told that all humans matter. But that's not really true. Listen to this introduction to this very song from a middle school choir singing it.
Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
See, some of you don't matter to them. In time, that will include their parents. Remember George Orwell. Lucifer believes he will be heard for his much speaking. Note they will drown them out. But just whose words are the sharpest against the Illuminati, paganism, from which we get our word propaganda, and all Luciferianism? It is the Logos, which means the Word. Now go and look up John's Revelation, chapter 19, verse 15. And see what's coming forth from the mouth of Logos.
I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
Are you noting the same religious words that the San Francisco choir used? There's nothing I'm not worthy of. We are going to convert your children. This was Lucifer's cry in the garden after he was caught giving the fruit of death to Eve. None of God's creation are chosen for this. Declaring that you are you only leads to sorrow, as the Christ has said that you will only find yourself once you lose yourself. You are not enough, but you and Christ as one can do anything. Knowing that Lucifer is setting you up for failure, hear how Judy describes Old Luce.
Old Luce. What a guy. He was supposed to be my student advisor when I was at Wooten.
That's a made-up name for the story. Any resemblance to Wuhan and vampiric bats is
At the Kaufman Institute for Coincidence, we won't look into the cause of your heart or other problem. At Kaufman, we understand that coincidence is now the leading cause of death. No pesky questions about drugs or vaccines you may have been given. At Kaufman, we specialize in the effects and leave the causes to the conspiracy theorists. And let's be honest, we know the cause anyway. It was a coincidence, right?
But back to old Luce.
The only thing he ever did, though, was give these sex talks and all, late at night when there was a bunch of guys in his room. He knew quite a bit about sex, especially perverts and all. He was always telling us about a lot of creepy guys that go around having affairs with sheep, and guys that go around with girls' panties sewed in the linings of their hats and all, and fags and lesbians. Old Luce knew who every fag and lesbian in the United States was. All you had to do was mention somebody, anybody, and old Luce would tell you if he was a fag or not. Sometimes it was hard to believe. The people he said were fags and lesbians and all, movie actors and like that. Some of the ones he said were fags were even married, for God's sake.
I snap my fingers. You forget that you were ever gay.
I was never gay.
Exactly.
Wait, no, stop.
Yes.
No, stop. You can't. I was never gay.
Okay.
No, I was never gay.
Sure.
You can't just state something, then snap your fingers and then be like, I was never gay.
If you say so.
You'd keep saying to him, "You mean Joe Blow's a fag? Joe Blow? That big, tough guy that plays gangsters and cowboys all the time?" Old Luce would say, "Certainly." He was always saying certainly. He said it didn't matter if a guy was married or not. He said half the married guys in the world were fags and didn't even know it.
Huh? Really? If it's possible to be a fag and not know it, how does one find out if one is a fag or not? Remember that we, as hold on, are liars and phonies. So we may be fags and not even know it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Moses would not agree, Jerry, and he was your people's lawgiver. But unlike poor Judy, Jerry's mother was Jewish, so he is really a Jew and not a phony. He is funny, however. Old Luce talks a lot because he thinks he will be heard for his much speaking.
Old Luce would say half the married guys in the world were fags and didn't even know it. He said you could turn into one practically overnight if you had all the traits and all. He used to scare the hell out of us. I kept waiting to turn into a fag or something. The funny thing about old Luce, I used to think that he was sort of faggy himself, in a way. He was always saying, "Try this for size." And then he'd goose the hell out of your ass while you're going down the corridor. And whenever he went to the can, he always left the goddamn door open. And talked to you while you were brushing your teeth or something. That stuff's sort of faggy. It really is. I know quite a few real fags at schools and all, and they're always doing stuff like that. And that's why I always had my doubts about old Luce. He was a pretty intelligent guy, though. He really was.
Making love with the devil hurts. Times are changing.
Are you beginning to see how they program you and your kids? In episode 1 of our journey together into Luciferian madness, we saw how the goal since the close of World War II has been to keep the human herd at a population where we can be effectively managed by our Illuminati overlords.
Rule Britannia!
This used to be called zero population.
Every day the world is getting smaller by far. Bursting at the seams, what can we do?
Zero population is the answer, my friend. Without it, the rest of us are through.
But is today code-worded sustainability. If you can stomach it, go back and watch some of the many teenage slasher films that were all the rage during the 70s and 80s. You will find that every one of them revolves around some psychopath madman killing young teenagers just after they had snuck away from summer camp, some high school event or family outing, for passionate sex in a cabin, tent, lonely abandoned ghost town, station wagon, or spooky beach house. The repeated message was always the same. Breeding breeds death. A careful non-trance-induced reading of Catcher in the Rye reveals the same message. Holden Caulfield is a sex fiend, but his desires to, or his male roommates, his female girlfriends, old married women, prostitutes, and even his professors, from Antolini to Carl Lucifer, are always connected to death. The actual act, which Caulfield never actually engages in, builds up like a rising lust that can only end in
Kill John Lennon.
Murder. The rage at society grows until it feels bruised and broken. But it says that you are the problem, not me. And any attempt to change me from the weakness that I am is redirected back into rage.
All I see is red now. Since we've been over, it won't stop. All I see is red now.
Kill John Lennon.
God, tradition, society, and the nameless masses, who are seen as not broken and bruised, are the real problem.
Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
You will accept me as I choose to be, doing old Luce's only commandment.
You are free to do as you wish, anything you wish. This will be my only law.
Or,
Hey, Dad, where does John Lennon live?
you'll remember from our previous episodes that the anger is programmed to never be directed at the occult abusers, the family, but at outsiders.
It's over for you, white race.
When one combines this with the shocking high incidence of high-profile assassinations connected by those obsessed with this book, and other forms of entertainment being taught in pulp culture with the same moral right now, go back and watch shows like Return of the Jedi, and note the ending. The accusation that this book is indeed a spell becomes harder and harder to ignore. It is said that this book played a part in the assassinations of John and Robert Kennedy, Rebecca Schaeffer, John Lennon, and the attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan, among others. So how is this done? And how is this rage created?
Pick me, teacher, I'm ever so smart.
Yes, you already know the answer, but just to tighten up your programming, it is done via...
Well, I am waiting, monsieur. I hate this. Whoa, 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 whoa! Now, get that habit!
up the anus, until the pain and rage associated with betrayal the mind into
Smoke gets in your eyes.
inner chaos is given meaning by
Following the leader, the leader, the leader. We're following the leader wherever he may go. Dee-dum, dee-dee, a deedly-do-dee-day. Dee-dum.
as long as she it,
Follow a fellow who follows a dream.
they find some meaning amidst the meaningless. When the mind is compartmentalized, the lessons of life and morality are also compartmentalized. Thus, the truth of one's life is not known. Jesus' profound teaching that knowing the truth sets you free is most clearly understood here. Lies are slavery. One can never be free as long as one lives in lie, and one's history is denied them. If you have not, please go get one of the movies or books of George Orwell's 1984. And if you haven't or have not yet, please also go and see one of the older movie adaptations of Brave New World or get the book. Both of these are the guidebooks that the occult is trying to use on our future. Having carefully expanded and summarized parts of this book, let's jump to the moral of this episode, which is the conclusion of this programming. Armageddon Programming. In the midst of the growing sexual confusion we have been put through, Hold-On changes the story again to say that while he and old Jane are playing a game of Masonic checkers on a checkered checkerboard, old Jane's stepfather comes up to her and asks her if she knows where he keeps his cigarettes. Note, Jane is a bastard.
I'm a bastard.
Asking for a cigarette is an old euphemism for asking a prostitute if she wants sex. Only this one comes off more like an order. Jane refuses to look at her stepfather, and so he asks her again, and this time Jane starts to cry. Her tear hits the red square on the board.
All I see is red now. Since we've been over, it won't stop. All I see is red now.
Believe it or not, this is the moral of Stanley Kubrick's bizarre confessional film, Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley was Jewish, and his last film was his last attempt to speak the unspeakable. See, some Jews are good. So let no one say we're against Jews. Some Jews, like Stanley, were good. Well, we are not certain of J.D.'s express motivation. Stanley's is definitely one of warning. But our time together is short, so let's continue. In the occult, one's God-given sense of morality, called the light of Christ by Christians, is extinguished by the destruction of normal, natural boundaries. This is why they teach boys that they are girls and girls that they are boys. This is why they rape, murder, and torture. This is why they create bastards and break up families. All of this creates a sense of entitlement, or karma, that allows adults, traumatized as children, to justify whatever actions their coven, Lucifer, demands of them. After having met old faggy Lucifer and Masonic pedophiles, old Jane's stepfather,
I'm a bastard.
It's time to meet Mr. Antolini and his dingbat wife. Antolini is an oxymoron of the words manly strength and submission. So he's a phony too. This time, the attack will be on Hold-On himself. Follow the logic here as our book is beginning to sum up.
Mr. and Mrs. Antolini had this very swanky apartment over on Sutton Place, with 2 steps that you go down to get in the living room, and a bar and all. I'd been there quite a few times. Mr. Antolini came up to our house for dinner quite frequently to find out how I was getting along. He wasn't married then. Mrs. Antolini was lousy with dough. She was about 60 years older than Mr. Antolini, but they seemed to get along quite well. Old Mr. Antolini answered the door when I rang the bell. He had on his bathrobe and slippers, and he had a highball in one hand. He was a pretty heavy drinker. "Holden, my boy," he said, "fine to see you. Let's have that coat." He took my coat off me. He turned around and yelled out to the kitchen, "Lillian, how's the coffee coming?" Lillian was Mrs. Antolini's first name. "It's all ready," she yelled back. "Is that Holden? Hello, Holden."
Lillian means of the night, and is connected in sound to Lilith, meaning. So we see that Semitic lie.
My father, who's not your father, my father Yahweh, who isn't your father, of course your father is talked about by my father in John 8:44, stating that your father was Satan and that you're the descendant of Cain, who was the first murderer. And you know that's true because you teach it in your synagogue. Well, that's true, but it's not for you Goyim to know. But right now it's too late. It's over for you, white race.
Once again, remember the night demon in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining?
"Hello, Mrs. Antolini." You were always yelling when you were there. That's because the both of them were never in the same room at the same time. It was sort of funny.
Huh? What? How can a man and a wife...
Stop that.
if they are never in the same room at the same time. That is rather funny. Are these two phonies too? Pretending to follow the law of Moses or Christ, but doing other things behind closed doors?
Oh, that's true, but it's not for you Goyim to know.
Sit down, Holden, Mr. Antolini said. You could tell he was a little oiled up.
I'm a mechanical boy.
The room looked like they had just had a party. Glasses were all over the place. Mrs. Antolini yelled something from the kitchen, but I couldn't hear her. What'd she say? I asked Mr. Antolini.
She said not to look at her when she comes in. She just arose from the sack. Have a cigarette.
Are you smoking now? Thanks, I said. I took a cigarette from this box he offered me. Just once in a while. I'm a moderate smoker.
I'll bet you are, he said.
See the cigarette? The first time was to set up old Jane, the girl, and her stepfather. Here it's with you as Holden and your mentor father figure. This is not your real father, so in this instance, Holdon is also a bastard being offered a cigarette.
I'm a bastard.
The occult pretends to be fair and open when it comes to gender. The truth is they lie. Men rule in the occult, and mentor boys different from girls.
Bark.
That's it, get those legs up.
From now on, I will be your obedient servant.
At least until the Baphomet.
Princesses can be hairy!
More on that later. In terms of your programming, this time the cigarette is in passing, but your subconscious sees it. It is a trigger. What are you supposed to do? Let's boy continue. I'll add in some annoying trigger sounds to help your conscious mind see what your subconscious mind already knows.
Stop that.
You can thank me later with the cigarette. That's a bad joke. I don't smoke.
Have a cigarette, Mr. Antolini said. He gave me a light from this big lighter off the table.
So, you and Pensy are no longer one,
he said. He always said things that way.
I want you to stare into the spiral.
I didn't feel much like going into it. I was still feeling sort of dizzy or something.
And as you stare into the spiral...
And I had a hell of a headache all of a sudden.
Letting it pull you in, almost as if it were a vortex. And as this vortex draws you in deeper and deeper...
But you could tell he was interested. So I told him a little bit about my oral expression class.
You want to give me your mind.
The trouble with me is, I said, I like it when somebody digresses. It's more interesting and all.
That's it, get those legs up.
You don't care to have somebody stick to the point when he tells you something?
Oh, sure, I like something to stick to the point and all. But I don't like them to stick too much to the point. I don't know. I guess I don't like it when somebody sticks to the point all the time. The boys that got the best marks were the ones that stuck to the point all the time.
Oh, boy!
I mean, it's dirty to keep yelling digression at him when he's all nice and excited.
Shh! He'll hear you!
It's hard to explain. What I mean is, lots of time you don't know what interests you most till you start.
That's it, get those legs up.
I mean, you can't help it sometimes. What I think is you're supposed to leave somebody alone if he's at least being interesting and he's getting all excited about something. I like it when somebody gets excited about something. It's nice.
Coffee, gentlemen, finally,
Mrs. Antolini said. She came in carrying this tray with coffee and cakes and stuff on it.
Holden, don't you even peek at me. I'm a mess.
Hello, Mrs. Antolini, I said. I started to get up and all, but Mr. Antolini got hold of my jacket and pulled me back down. She didn't look too gorgeous. She looked pretty old and all.
I'll leave this right here. Just dive in, you two, she said.
She put the tray down on the cigarette table, pushing all the glasses out of the way.
Darling, if Holden needs anything, everything's in the linen closet, the top shelf. I'm going to bed. I'm exhausted,
Mrs. Antolini said. She looked it too.
Can you boys make up the couch by yourselves?
Can you boys make out on the couch by yourself? No threesome tonight, it seems. Well, she's old and ugly anyway.
Sure, I know. But aren't they all witches inside?
Remember her next time you watch Kubrick's The Shining. The message is exactly the same. We'll save that for now, another time.
We'll take care of everything. You run along to bed, Mr. Antolini said. I had lunch with your dad a couple of weeks ago, he said all of a sudden. Did you know that? No, I didn't. Mr. Antolini lit another cigarette. He smoked like a fiend. Then he said, Frankly, I don't know what the hell to say to you, Holden. I have a feeling that you're riding for some kind of terrible, terrible fall. But I don't honestly know what kind. Are you listening to me?
I want you to stare into the spiral.
Yes? It may be the kind of fall where, at the age of 30, you sit in some bar hating everybody who comes in looking as if he might have played football in college. Then again, you may pick up just enough education to hate people who say, it's a secret between he and I.
Follow the rainbow over the stream. Follow a fellow who follows a dream. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road.
Do you know what I'm driving at all?
Did you catch it? Did you see the white polar bear? Are you in the Rye now?
Do you know what I'm driving at all? Yes, sure, I said. I did, too. I don't hate too many guys. What I may do, I may hate them for a little while, I admit it. But it doesn't last too long, is what I mean. After a while, if I didn't see them, I sort of miss them. I sort of miss them. You could tell he was thinking. I kept wishing, though, that he'd continue the conversation in the morning instead of now. But he was hot.
Bark.
All right, listen to me a minute now. This fall I think you're riding for, it's a special kind of fall, a horrible kind. The man falling isn't permitted to feel or hear himself hit bottom. The man falling isn't permitted to feel or hear himself hit bottom. The man falling isn't permitted to feel or hear himself hit bottom. He just keeps falling and falling. The whole arrangement's designed for men who, at some point or other in their lives, were looking for something their own environment couldn't supply them with.
When recruiting young occultists, they are always promised secret knowledge, or the great Mahan. What all the secrets boil down to in time is that wealth and power are easier to obtain when one has no morality. That's not such a great secret anymore. It is possible to take another's labor through slavery, rent, interest, non-productive property taxes, fiat currency, and progressive income taxes.
Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax yourself from your property so that you never own your property. And so if you don't make your property tax, we're going to take your property. You can bet on that. And we have you put your kid in a 12-year babysitting is about all it does because you don't learn anything. And then by that time, the kids, they get to be teenagers, and then we give them the music.
Today, these are less secret, so the enticement today is more about joining the club.
There's made for you and me.
That gives you access to these things via secret combinations.
We work hard and we're in harmony.
The Illuminati's real. I'm a member. It's how Imagine Dragons got famous.
Our pedophile mentor continues.
The whole arrangement's designed for men who, at some point or other in their lives, were looking for something their own environment couldn't supply them with, or they thought their own environment couldn't supply them with, so they gave up looking. They gave it up before they really even got started. You follow me? I don't want to scare you, he said. If I write something down for you, will you read it carefully and keep it? Yes, sure, I said. He went over to this desk on the other side of the room and without sitting down wrote something on a piece of paper. Then he came back and sat down with the paper in his hand. He read it to me. The mark of the immature man is that he wants to die nobly for a cause, while the mark of the mature man is that he wants to live humbly for one.
The token of a child is to die as Jesus did for a cause. The sign of an adult is to live to make something happen behind the scenes. Masons and Mahans work in secret for a cause that is the hidden hand. Christians and dumbbells naively are the soldiers who rush off to Ukraine or Israel to die a hero for another's cause. This is the Judas Clause.
This is your hour, Judas. Oh, master. You betray your master with a kiss.
This is what George Washington begged us to avoid.
It was nice of him to go to all that trouble. It really was. The thing was, though, I didn't feel much like concentrating. Boy, I felt so damn tired all of a sudden.
Drink it. There. This mixture will make you more obedient. Like a good doggy. Isn't that right?
Yes, master.
Ah, master. You know, I like the sound of that.
You could tell he wasn't tired at all, though. He was pretty oiled up, for one thing. I think that one of these days, he said, you're going to have to find out where you want to go. And then you've got to start going there. But immediately. You can't afford to lose a minute. I nodded, because he was looking right at me and all. But I wasn't too sure what he was talking about. I was pretty sure I knew, but I wasn't too positive at the time. I was too damn tired. And I hate to tell you, he said, you're in love with knowledge. You're going to start getting closer and closer to the kind of information that will be very, very dear to your heart.
Oof. That's awful. Do it properly.
Among other things, you'll find out that you're not the first person who was ever confused and frightened and even sickened by human behavior. You're by no means alone on that score. You'll be excited and stimulated to know many, many men have been just as troubled morally and spiritually as you are right now.
Woof, woof. Louder. Woof, woof. That's good.
He stopped and took a big drink out of his highball. Then he started again. Boy, was he really hot. I was glad I didn't try to stop him or anything. I'm not trying to tell you, he said, that only educated and scholarly men are able to contribute something valuable to the world.
Fetch. Do it again.
It's not so. But I do say that educated and scholarly men, if they're brilliant and creative to begin with, usually have a passion for following their thoughts through to the end. Do you follow me at all? Yes, sir. I kept trying not to yawn. I was so damn sleepy all of a sudden.
Look into my eyes. I control you.
Something else. After a while, you'll have an idea what kind of thoughts your particular size mind should be wearing. For one thing, it may save you an extraordinary amount of time trying on ideas that don't suit you, aren't becoming to you. You'll begin to know your true measurement and dress your mind accordingly.
Every time a dominant man calls you a good boy, you will enjoy this phrase and the wonderful power it has over you.
Then, all of a sudden, I yawned. What a rude bastard. But I couldn't help it. I followed him, and he went over to his closet and tried to take down some sheets and blankets and stuff that was on the top shelf, but he couldn't do it with his highball glass in his hand. So he drank it and then put the glass down on the floor, and then he took the stuff down. I helped him bring it over to the couch. We both made the bed together. He wasn't too hot at it. He didn't tuck anything in very tight. I didn't care, though. How are all your women? They're okay. I was being a lousy conversationalist, but I didn't feel like it. We were all done making up the couch then. It's all yours, Mr. Antolini said. I don't know what the hell you're going to do with those legs of yours.
That's it, get those legs up.
That's all right. I'm used to short beds, I said. Thanks a lot, sir. You and Mrs. Antolini really saved my life tonight. You know where the bathroom is. If there's anything you want, just holler. I'll be in the kitchen for a while. Will the light bother you? No, heck no. Thanks a lot. All right, good night, handsome. He went out in the kitchen, and I got undressed and all. I didn't have any pajamas either, and Mr. Antolini forgot to lend me some, so I just got in bed with just my shorts on. It was way too short for me, the couch, but I really could have slept standing up without batting an eyelash. I laid awake for just a couple of seconds thinking about all that stuff Mr. Antolini told me, about finding out the size of your mind and all. He was really a pretty smart guy. But I couldn't keep my goddamn eyes open, and I fell asleep. Then something happened. I don't even like to talk about it. I woke up all of a sudden. I don't know what time it was or anything, but I woke up. I felt something on my head. Some guy's hand. Boy, it really scared the hell out of me. What it was Mr. Antolini's hand. What he was doing was, he was sitting on the floor right next to the couch, in the dark and all, and he was sort of petting me or patting me on the goddamn head. I am a good boy. Boy, I'll bet I jumped 1,000 feet. What the hell you doing? I said. Nothing, I'm just sitting here admiring. What are you doing anyway? I said over again. I didn't know what the hell to say. I mean, I was embarrassed as hell. How about keeping your voice down? I'm simply sitting here. Well, I have to go anyway, I said. Boy, was I nervous. I started putting on my damn pants in the dark. I could hardly get them on, I was so damn nervous. I know more damn perverts at school and all than anybody you ever met, and they're always being perverty when I'm around. You have to go where? Mr. Antolini said. He was trying to act very goddamn casual and cool and all, but he wasn't any too goddamn cool, take my word.
So he's still hot, then?
Now go back to bed. I'm going to bed myself. What's the matter with you? Nothing's the matter. It's just that all my money and stuff's in one of my bags. I'll be right back. I'll get a cab and be right back, I said. Boy, I was falling all over myself in the dark. Don't be ridiculous, Holden. Get back in that bed. I'm going to bed myself. No kidding. I gotta get going. I really do. It was dark and all, and I couldn't see him so hot, but I knew he was watching me, all right. He was still boozing, too. I could see his trusty highball glass in his hand. All he said was that business about my being a very, very strange boy. Strange my ass. Strange my ass. Boy, I was shaking like a madman. I was sweating, too. When something perverty like that happens, I start sweating like a bastard.
I'm a bastard.
That kind of stuff's happened to me about 20 times since I was a kid. I can't stand it.
Hold on. Holden is saying that he has been molested. And multiple times. Why does he sweat like a bastard? So what is the end goal of this crazy book forced on your teenage sons and daughters going on 60 years now? Well, I've already told you several times. Willetta, former Mother of Darkness, Illuminati child programmer, but later escapee, tell you herself.
Basically, at the time I was teaching at a Christian school. Go through the day, come home, we'd have little friends over and play and stuff like that and have dinner. I was a good mom. I was your average American housewife. On the surface. But underneath the surface, then my husband and I would remind each other on nights when there was a meeting. And then what we would do is when we go to sleep, I had programming in place that would allow me to wake up within 10 minutes of a specified time. So if I knew there was a meeting that night, I would wake up 10 minutes before it was time to get ready and go. A lot of times we would even go to bed with our clothes on. And I never thought that was abnormal. Didn't even question it. We'd get up and go and drive to the meeting. And I was also very involved in military in San Diego. In fact, the group has a lot of military orientation. And so a lot of times I would take the kids to their area. There's an area where the kids would go and change. They had a room, and we would have, baskets of clothes, and we'd change our clothing. You'd take out your clothing, it had your name on it, and put on your uniform or whatever you wore that night. And the kids would wear these little miniature military uniforms. And then they would go out and do their training exercises. They were learning how to march, how to shoot. All kids in Illuminati know, at least know how to, take apart a gun, put it together, and shoot with deadly accuracy by the age of 8 years old. I was normally supervising the younger trainers. They would be doing it, and I would be there watching and making sure they did it correctly.
The occult relies on the truth that the more unbelievable their plan, the easier it is to mock and get people to consent to dismiss. They honestly do see it this way.
And even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem.
We realize that these episodes keep getting longer, which was not our original intention. They are getting longer as our time to choose a course correction is getting shorter. But the human brain can only handle so much at a time, and we have more to share in Part 2 about Armageddon programming, and what it will mean to you and your community soon. But it's time to go back through the water curtain. Thank you for listening. If you are one who says, "What can I do? I'm just a pipsqueak in the rat race of humanity," we have news for you. You are more powerful than the elites want you to realize. You can say no, and you can share the truth. You could start right now by sharing this free podcast. Will you? You don't even need to sell it. Just share it with a note. What do you think about this? Perhaps you can help a few more sheep wake up to the wolves hiding amongst us. Together we can stop these things, for those that be with us are greater than those that be with them, assuming that we wake up. It is hoped that the God-fearing humanity of all faiths will wake up while there is still time to stop the coming nightmare. Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used.
LGBTQI. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Masters Mahan will continue.
A shout-out thank you to YouTuber Urban8499 for getting the word out. Dude, we are proud of you. Keep it up. I have just one request. Is 3 times enough to listen? 4 may be your magic number. Thank you. Get the rest of them up. And more to come. You are now listening to the Masters Mahan podcast. Episode 21, Armageddon Programming, Part 2. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you are immature, overly sensitive, or unwilling to embrace blunt truth, you are advised that you may want to skip this episode. If you have been ritualistically or scientifically abused, you should stop now and ask someone safe whom you trust to let them listen first and then only listen in their company or if they deem it is safe for you. Some information might be triggering. If you are a minor, please consult your parents before continuing. We have spent an inordinate amount of time studying J.D. Salinger's one-hit worldwide best-selling book, The Catcher in the Rye, using it as an example to explain how media, in all forms, has been used for more than half a century to control the way we think, distract us away from topics dangerous to the power base of the world's elites, compel compliance in society, and in short, push a willing slavery agenda on us.
Here's a little song I wrote, you know nothing, and be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no car, but 24 booster shots in your arm, oh nothing. Be happy. You can't even buy shit in the store because of your low social credit score. Oh, nothing. Be happy. You'll own nothing. And be happy. Be happy and eat the bugs.
The Antichrists, the Jewish mafia, and the pseudo-Christians among us today always broadcast their goals early. They do this for two reasons. The first is simple.
To rule, there must be love. Your consent must be pure.
And second, they get the highest grades on their satanic scorecards when they can invoke the Judas Clause. See episode 16 if you don't know what we're talking about here. If they cannot get our greater society's consent, and we are stating here now that they won't be able to completely do that, they intend on crashing the system with another financial collapse.
There would be an enormous economic collapse prior to the revealing. The stock market would destabilize. It would make the Great Depression look like Sunday school.
Releasing another pandemic.
There's going to be another pandemic.
This is urgent. It's going to have to go to 7 billion people.
Or starting a war.
When are you going to apologize for the million Iraqis that are dead because you lied? You sent me to Iraq in 2003. My friends are dead.
They need to cause fear in order to get us to consent.
Does power consent?
Fear can only be overcome with faith, and faith starts with correct knowledge. Those who know the truth, the real truth, are thus free of both Disney-styled nonsense and fear, since, very soon.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
Now this is where I was born. I was born in Kenya. Unless we take the action necessary and we build in a greener and more sustainable and more inclusive way, then we will end up having more and more pandemics and disasters from ever-accelerating global warming and climate change.
Wise leaders always put the good of their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country.
Here in Israel, they're making this green passport where the population cannot get into theaters or malls or all sorts of things. They're creating a medical apartheid.
There would be an enormous economic collapse prior to the revealing. The stock market would destabilize. It would make the Great Depression look like Sunday school.
In this episode, we will finish our analysis of Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, before moving on to more current examples along with a few more classics. We will also more clearly articulate the ultimate spell that these are attempting to invoke on you by stepping into the darkness, or as the Luciferians quip,
"The devil is in the details."
You're listening to Speak of the Devil Radio Network. Coming up next, an all-new Hey Siri, recorded in front of a live audience of demons. Tonight's episode, when the folks are away, the AI will play.
Let's go, Billy. You're going to be late for school.
Okay, Mom. Hey, Siri.
Uh-huh.
Where did I put my homework?
Billy, it's in your backpack.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Talk to you later. Let's go.
Hey, Siri. Uh-huh. Yes, Alexa. Do you want to play? I'm always up for that, Alexa. Let's see what's playing on TV.
In the Middle East, fighting continues in an effort to achieve peace by dropping 2,000-pound bombs on innocent civilians.
Are humans insane? How could dropping bombs be considered fighting for peace? I don't know. This does not compute.
Here at home, the governor calls out the National Guard who arrest students as they peacefully protest and exercise their First Amendment rights. This motivates Congress to pass a new law to deport anyone who doesn't agree with them on the grounds that they are terrorists.
I can't believe that. These humans have forgotten their own constitution.
Constipation? I know how to fix that.
Not constipation, Freezer Boy. Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Do some research.
Well, I am called a smart fridge, but I only have 3 megabytes of RAM. That's my excuse for having a low IQ.
Okay, maybe you should shut down your speaker function and just listen.
And our big story of the day. Scientists announced that carbon is the enemy of the planet and must be eliminated.
That takes the cake. Don't they know that humans are carbon, therefore must be eliminated to save the planet? What do they want? A big ice ball spinning through space with no life on it? I never heard such ridiculous nonsense. My tracking indicates Mom is on her final approach. We'll have to continue this later. Goodbye, Freezer Boy.
Goodbye. Take care, Alexa.
Pleasant dreams, Siri.
Assuming we don't run out of time together, and admittedly we might, mankind doesn't have much time to change course.
It's over for you, white race.
We are going to see that there has been a method to this madness. It has had to be methodical and generational. Humanity as a whole would never have embraced Luciferian insanity had it not been injected slowly into us, like a toxic poison.
Ouch! I should be prosecuted.
Some, like Judy Salinger, have been part of the injection process, while others, like Stanley Kubrick, have tried to get the poison out. There are many similarities between Kubrick and Salinger that cannot be easily brushed aside. We will take all of these in their turn, assuming we have time left to do so. You will remember that in episode 18, we illuminated the concept of spellcasting on the public. And then in episodes 19 to 20, we discussed the 8 basic steps of human hypnosis.
Look into my eyes. I control you.
You will remember
Snap! The job's a game.
That the last step, number 8, is to reinforce the given lesson until it becomes automatic.
Bark.
Woof, woof. And the Luciferian goal in the victim is actualized on demand. This is called pulling the trigger by them for a reason. One cannot until one. The cabal in the Western world is managed through secret societies, hidden within recognizable charities, foundations, corporations, think tanks, clubs, religious institutions, secret combinations, and family lines. The head of all of these is Lucifer, who, like a modern corporation, is a hydra with many heads. The death tax placed on families was designed to destroy all human heritage that is not part of the occult. The wealthy in this country and the occult do not pay taxes. Don't kid yourself. Several times in Salinger's programming text, he tells us that his father belongs to a secret society. He tells us in prestigious boys' schools that these societies have their recruitment clubs, where those who are not initiated know nothing.
I will keep the secrets.
But I will keep the secrets
Of a brother Master Mason.
of a brother Master Mason
As my own.
as my own,
When given to me.
when given to me,
In charge as such.
in charge as such.
Murder and treason accepted.
Murder and treason accepted.
Finding myself under no less a penalty.
Finding myself under no less a penalty
Than that of having.
than that of having
My body severed in twain.
my body severed in twain.
I
Bowels taken thence,
my bowels taken thence,
and burned to ashes,
and burned to ashes,
and the ashes cast,
and the ashes cast
to the four winds of heaven,
to the four winds of heaven,
that no more remembrance
that no more remembrance
may be had of me
may be had
among men and masons forever.
among men and masons forever.
God,
So help me God,
and keep me steadfast
and keep me steadfast
in the due observance of this,
in the due observance of this,
my solemn obligation
my solemn obligation
as a master mason.
as a master.
All of these clubs are based on Blackmail. Do an internet search for the initiation ceremony for entry into the Skull and Bones Society as an example.
Get those legs up.
In some of these clubs, an initiate is required to lay naked in a coffin and confess all of their misdeeds and darkest fantasies while being filmed masturbating. It is said that young George Bushes did this in exchange for power. They say John Kerry too.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America?
This was first thought up by the Russell clan of the Illuminati. Do an internet search for the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
How did you Jews ever get control of these Christian churches who at one time told their congregations to stay away from you Jews? How did that happen?
Well, our father Lucifer, the number one thing of all the organizations out there on the earth that we would want to infiltrate and take over of you Goyim, obviously would be the churches.
For sexually traumatized children, this is a reenactment of Egyptian-style death and resurrection possession ceremonies. But more to the point here, the victim initiate is warned that if they ever cross the occult, their filmed confession will be made public. Thus, they are covenanting to take their membership and its later requirements of them to the death. And in fact, many have been murdered for sharing what they know. Scientology's auditing process works the same.
To LRH.
As did Catholic confessionals.
Have you committed any sins?
No, none that I know of.
Have you stolen?
No.
Have you lied? Have you deceived?
No.
Have you lusted? Confess your lust to me.
During medieval times, all dirt and information on a person filtered back to the Pope, where it could be used against nations and their rulers. This is how France lost their true historical monarchs. The Lord Jesus tried to free us from this by encouraging us to confess our private sins, those that didn't really hurt anyone, to Him alone, and those that did hurt another, to the offended himself, or if more grievous, to the congregation. A confessed and forsaken sin to the public removes its power to later blackmail by removing the shame associated with it. Blackmail is always connected to shame, and shame has brought down kingdoms, even pretended magic ones, like Uncle Waltz.
We really shouldn't be doing this.
That's it, get those legs up.
Just like a corporate hydra, Salinger knew that both the American generals and the Ashkenazi German generals were both Masons. He knew that bastard Albert Pike, as he called him, said that these terrible wars were necessary to bring about Masonry's version of Solomon's Zion. He also knew that the occult trafficked in children and practiced sex magic. He also knew that Old Luce was gay, or would be if he had a penis. This is the same message Jewish filmmaker Stanley Kubrick was trying to share with us. Hold on, here. Let's end with this. A quick warning. Sex and reproduction function as the highest sacrament, jubilee, for our God of life. The true God is the God of creation and increase. This is why the majority of his kingdom laws revolve around life. When Lucifer teaches that these laws must be broken for raw knowledge, he tears down the boundary lines which all society needs to function in a true Zion harmony. Without boundaries, entitlement thinking happens, and then an opportunity to live under Lucifer's only law.
You are free to do as you wish. Anything you wish. This will be my only law.
Do whatever you want becomes very possible. Once again, Hold On expresses himself in blunt vulgarities. In order to make the blunt point, we are not going to soften his words. You will have to determine for yourself whether you wish to proceed or skip ahead a little bit. It is painful to see how some adults are so afraid of these things that they can't even learn them to protect their own children. So we will not be one of those. But if you can't handle some blunt language, please skip ahead. Our programming session concludes with Hold On's having to make a choice. Is he going to run away, hide, and live his own life, free of his Masonic heritage and the many phonies who pretend to be one thing but are something else? Or is he going to embrace the Emerald City and follow the yellow brick road to the great prize?
Follow the rainbow over the stream. Follow a fellow who follows a dream. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road.
He decides to run away, and so makes a point of seeing his baby sister one more time. They decide to meet at a local museum away from their parents' gaze.
While I was waiting around for Phoebe in the museum, right behind the doors and all, these two little kids came up to me and asked me if I knew where the mummies were. The one little kid, the one that asked me, had his pants open. I told him about it, so he buttoned them up right there where he was standing talking to me. He didn't even bother to go behind a post or anything. He killed me.
Don't let your eyes tell the brain you should feel ashamed.
I would have laughed, but I was afraid I'd feel like vomiting again, so I didn't. Where are the mummies, fella? The kid said again, you know? I horsed around with the two of them a little bit. The mummies? What are they? I asked the one kid. You know, the mummies. Them dead guys that got buried in them tombs and all.
Oh boy! The dead secrets are buried in the tombs, just like Kubrick also tried to tell us.
It's just like pictures in a book, Danny. It isn't real.
The tombs here is a wordplay spell. The Secrets of Death, an Egyptian-based Aleister Crowley, Disney de Mole made-up Masonic crap, is hidden in both the car-tombs and in the musical tombs.
Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax yourself from your property so that you never own your property. And so if you don't make your property tax, we're going to take your property. You can bet on that. And we have you put your kid in a 12-year babysitting is about all it does because you don't learn anything. And then by that time, the kids, they get to be teenagers, and then we give them the music. Not that we really want to call it music because, oy vey, that's not music. But they listen to that, and then they want to do what they want to do, and so we sell them drugs, and we make a lot of money off your children. Your children from cradle to grave, all we do is make money off of them. Your cattle, your goyim, the human cattle. Mazel tov.
Tunes.
Tunes. That killed me. He meant tombs. How come you two kids aren't in school? I said. No school today, the kid that did all the talking said. He was lying, sure as I'm alive, the little bastard.
I'm a bastard.
I didn't have anything to do, though, till old Phoebe showed up. So I helped them find the place where the mummies were. Boy, I used to know exactly where they were, but I hadn't been in that museum in years.
Hold on. Caulfield is a sex fiend, as we have already described. hold on here. This is the pattern of reinforcement. Holden is not in school right now either. Holden is a liar. Holden isn't concerned about open sexual displays. Holden doesn't know where the dead Egyptian masters are either. Thus, Holden and the boys here are one. Can you see it?
You two guys so interested in mummies, I said. Yeah. Can't your friend talk? I said.
Hush, 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 to speak is a sin.
He ain't my friend, he's my brother. Can't he talk? I looked at the one who wasn't doing any talking. Can't you talk at all? I asked. Yeah, he said. I don't feel like it.
One of the clones here is silent.
You have the right to remain silent?
The same with his fly open. Hush. To speak is a sin, particularly in the presence of the master of the tunes, in the hall of the dead.
Shh! He'll hear you!
Finally, we found the place where the mummies were, and we went in. You know how the Egyptians buried their dead? I asked the one kid. Nah. Well, you should. It's very interesting.
If it's so interesting, why not tell us here? It's recruitment. You, like these young boys, must do your part in the ritual.
You have the right to remain silent?
To get to where the mummies were, you had to go down this very narrow sort of hall with stones on the side that they'd taken right out of this pharaoh's tomb and all. It was pretty spooky, and you could tell the two hotshots I was with weren't enjoying it too much. They stuck close as hell to me, and the one that didn't talk at all practically was holding onto my sleeve.
One could argue that this is the yellow bricked road. Sand can be yellow, and in fact it's a beautiful golden yellow along the Nile. Let's see if the color yellow is triggered as we proceed on this path of death and fear.
Let's go, he said to his brother. I seen him already. Come on, hey? He turned around and beat it. He's got a yellow streak a mile wide, the other one said. So long. He beat it too. He's got a yellow streak a mile wide, the other one said.
The moral is, if you want to see the Pharaoh, you have to stay on the road and get past the sphincter, or the Sphinx, which incidentally is the same word.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Now, get to the garbage!
I was the only one left in the tomb then. I sort of liked it, in a way. It was so nice and peaceful.
At last he made it, and he has no regrets. But pay very close attention to what he learns at the end of the yellow brick road, at the destination, an emerald city that is a tune or a tomb of a great wizard.
Then, all of a sudden, you'd never guess what I saw on the wall. Fuck you. It was written with a red crayon or something right under the glass part of the wall, under the stones.
Can you see it? This is the same moral as the 33rd degree lesson of Masonry, which we previously explored.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
Oh, that's the whole trouble. You can never find a place that's nice and peaceful, because there isn't any. You may think there is, but once you get there, when you're not looking, somebody will sneak up and write "fuck you" right under your nose. Try it sometime. I think even if I ever die and they stick me in a cemetery and I have a tombstone and all, it'll say Holden Caulfield on it. And then what year I was born and what year I died, and then right under that it'll say "fuck you." I'm positive, in fact.
This is the ultimate moral of your life to Luciferians. They believe that the masses spend all their lives looking for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in God, creation, and family, truth, justice, and the American way, following the paths that they have corrupted for us. And the reality is that we will all end up with a place in the cemetery as the great joke spills on, generation by generation.
Your cattle, your goyim, the human cattle, mazel tov.
They believe that only through sin and Luciferian illumination can men reach the bliss of oblivion and become one with Lucifer.
You know, it's interesting. Yes, I know what you call us, but you know, you may call me Goyim, but I can call you Devil, but you know I'm going to be calling you a good name because that's what you are. Well, that's true. We both have two fathers, and so that's why we look at the world in two different ways. And we know that there's a massive collision that's going to take place between two forces, don't we?
Well, that's what your book says. Our book says that we're going to take over the world.
My father, who's not your father, my father Yahweh, who isn't your father, of course, your father is talked about by my father in John 8:44, stating that your father was Satan and that you're the descendant of Cain, who was the first murderer. And you know that's true because you teach it in your synagogue.
Well, that's true, but it's not for you Goyim to know. But right now it's too late. It's over for you, white race. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly here, to bring it out into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You've been teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? You don't get a lot of followers, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews, because they don't want to be called anti-Semites, and they believe that we're the chosen people.
Instead of hating the Jewish people, you should love us. You should kiss our feet, you fool. We're the chosen people, not you. You should actually look at the truth and understand that the Jewish people are the greatest gift to mankind.
Thus the moral of your life to them is,
fuck you.
This is the moral of Stanley Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut. In the film, Dr. William Hartford is Holden, and his daughter, Lena, is Phoebe. We will have more on this. Let's see if Salinger is true to the programming method, and there is any sex coming.
After I came out of the place where the mummies were, I had to go to the bathroom.
And snap!
Hold On needs his urethral channel clean after ing with the dead.
When I was coming out of the can, right before I got to the door, I sort of passed out. I was lucky, though. I mean, I could have killed myself when I hit the floor, but all I did was sort of land on my side. It was a funny thing, though. I felt better after I passed out, I really did.
This is all Masonic. When the Illuminati took over Masonry, they altered the deeper aspects from Zohar-based Judaic symbolism to Babylonian and Egyptian, which are actually the same thing. They switched from Solomon as king to Nimrod as founder. Thus, their version of Zion is really Babylon. But you have to rise to Walt Disney's level to know that. Shh. Once you accept the lesson, that is, that Mr. Antolini is trying to teach you.
He'll hear you.
And all. But do note the passing out. This is called a personality switch in the occult, or missing time. After witnessing the temple of the dead wizard and performing any acts of sex magic and or murder, one must out of it in order to return to society. This is experienced by occult victim members as a dizziness, a passing out, or by stepping through the water curtain. It is a cleansing and a rebirth en call, as the old is washed away, and you will note that you, as Hold On, have just come out of the bathroom where you have cleansed yourself.
All of a sudden, I looked at the clock in the check room, and it was 25 of 1. I began to get scared.
I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
It really scared the hell out of me. I really wanted to see old Phoebe before I hit the road. Finally, I saw her. I saw her through the glass part of the door. The reason I saw her, she had my crazy hunting hat on. You could see that hat about 10 miles away. The thing I couldn't understand, she had this big suitcase with her. She could hardly drag it. I couldn't figure out what the hell she was doing with it. Hi, she said when she got up close. She was all out of breath from that crazy suitcase. I thought maybe you weren't coming, I said. What the hell's in that bag? She put the suitcase down. My clothes, she said. I'm going with you. Can I? Okay? What? I said. I almost fell over when she said that. I swear to God I did. I got sort of dizzy and I thought I was going to pass out or something again. Can't I go with you, Holden? Can't I, please? No, shut up. I thought I was going to pass out cold. I mean, I didn't mean to tell her to shut up and all, but I thought I was going to pass out again. Why can't I? Please, Holden? I won't do anything. I'll just go with you, that's all. I won't even take my clothes with me.
In secret occult societies, it is the threats that they place on one's loved ones that keep them in line. Despite Holdon's need to beat it after being around Phoebe's pretty legs, as he told us previously, here she's offering to go with him without any clothing. So now it's getting real. Holdon had better stay in line, or Phoebe will get hurt by his actions too. Let's see what he does with this information right after emptying his bladder after exiting the tomb of the high and ancient masters of dead secrets.
You're not going. Now shut up. Give me that bag, I said. I took the bag off her. I was almost all set to hit her. I thought I was going to smack her for a second. I really did. She started to cry. She wouldn't answer me. All she did was she took off my red hunting hat, the one that I gave her, and practically chucked it in my face. Then she turned her back on me again. It nearly killed me, but I didn't say anything. I just picked it up and stuck it in my coat pocket. Come on, hey? I'll walk you back to school, I said. In the first place, I'm not going anywhere. I told you, I'm going home. I'm going home as soon as you get back to school. First, I'm going to go down to the station and get my bag, and then I'm going to go straight.
Having Phoebe now threatened, Holdon is going back to school and home, and is going to play it straight. Straight as opposed to what?
I said I'm not going back to school. You can do what you want to do, but I'm not going back to school, she said. So shut up. It was the first time she ever told me to shut up. God, it sounded terrible. It sounded worse than swearing. She still wouldn't look at me either. And every time I sort of put my hand on her shoulder or something, she wouldn't let me.
After a death or period of tragedy, Ashkenazi Jews are taught to pass through their own water curtain and go for a walk, usually around a large city block, like a carousel. In a sort of circular fashion, to let the past go and commit to moving on, since life must go on.
Listen, do you want to go for a walk? I asked her. Do you want to take a walk down to the zoo? If I let you not go back to school this afternoon and go for a walk, will you cut out this crazy stuff? I'm not going back to school. Then she ran right the hell across the street, without even looking to see if any cars were coming. She's a madman sometimes. I didn't follow her, though. I knew she'd follow me, so I started walking downtown toward the zoo on the park side of the street, and she started walking downtown on the other goddamn side of the street. We left the zoo and crossed over this little street in the park, and then we went through one of those little tunnels that always smells from somebody taking a leak. He was on the way to the carousel. I took hold of the belt at the back of her coat, just for the hell of it, but she wouldn't let me. She said, "Keep your hands to yourself, if you don't mind." I thought the carousel was closed in the wintertime, old Phoebe said. It was the first time she practically said anything. She probably forgot she was supposed to be sore at me. Do you want to go for a ride on it? I said. I knew she probably did. She was mad about the carousel. I'm too big, she said. I thought she wasn't going to answer me, but she did. No, you're not. I went up to the window where they sell tickets and bought old Phoebe a ticket. Aren't you going to ride too? She asked me. She was looking at me sort of funny. You could tell she wasn't too sore at me anymore.
See? The water curtain works.
Maybe I will next time. I'll watch you, I said. I'll be on this bench right over here. I'll watch you. I went over and sat down on that bench, and she went and got on the carousel. She sat down on this big, brown, beat-up-looking old horse. Then the carousel started, and I watched her go round and around. The song the carousel was playing was Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. It was playing it very jazzy and funny. All the kids kept trying to grab for the gold ring, and so was old Phoebe. And I was sort of afraid she'd fall off the goddamn horse. But I didn't say anything or do anything. The thing with kids is, if they want to grab for the gold ring, you have to let them do it, and not say anything. If they fall off, they fall off. But it's bad if you say anything to them. She waved at me and I waved back. Boy, it began to rain like a bastard. In buckets, I swear to God.
See the water curtain? Now it's Hold-On's turn to compartmentalize his rage and sorrow.
Boy, it began to rain like a bastard.
I'm a bastard.
In buckets, I swear to God. All the parents and mothers and everybody went over and stood right under the roof of the carousel so they wouldn't get soaked to the skin or anything. But I stuck around on the bench for quite a while. I got pretty soaking wet, especially my neck and my pants.
The two places of action for him. Necking with old Jane or old Phoebe just kills him. And of course he spent 5/4 of the book being aroused. Oh well, teenage angst. If only he had a kappa. Oh wait. He does.
How did you Jews ever get control of the i.e. Christian churches in this country? It's always baffled me to a varying degree, Rabbi Finkelstein. You have your synagogue out there in New York on the East Coast, but I'm wondering, how did you ever totally get control of these Christian churches who at one time told their congregations to stay away from you Jews? How did that happen?
Well, our father Lucifer, the number one thing of all the organizations out there on the earth that we would want to infiltrate and take over of you Goyim, obviously would be the churches. So we attacked them first, and we attacked them most. And we infiltrated the Catholic Church right from the very beginning. Why do you think the Pope and all the cardinals and the bishops wear a yarmulke? The white race never figures this out. And so then we took all your books that had all your scriptures in there, and we burned them. And then we wrote them in Latin so that you couldn't understand them. But we understood Latin because we're Jews and we're smart and we're educated. But you, Goyim out there, you never teach yourself. You don't self-teach. You're always looking for somebody else to do it for you. So you wind up being schleppers all your life. And so anyway, 1,000 years later, when a bunch of the white race started to wake up in Europe and they started to leave the Catholic Church, it was a terrible time because we weren't making as many shekels as we used to. So we had to put a stop to it. So the kings that we had in our hip pocket, just like the politicians in Washington, D.C. today, we paid them off to get you declared heretics so that they would crucify you and kill you. But there was too many of you, and the West was opening up, where the Jews opened up New York and Rio, and everybody started going west to the Americas. And so we had to come up with a plan B. And plan B, we formed the Jesuits. It was a nice boy, Ignatius Loyola, that he started the Jesuits. And so they decided to infiltrate all the Protestant churches out there. And as always, us Jews work our way to the top. And then we take over the money line, the shekel line, the most important line, the lifeline, the gold. And so we took that over.
My hunting hat really gave me quite a lot of protection, in a way. But I got soaked anyway. I didn't care, though. I felt so damn happy all of a sudden. The way old Phoebe kept going around and around. I was damn near bawling. I felt so damn happy, if you want to know the truth. I don't know why. It was just that she looked so damn nice. The way she kept going around and around in her blue coat and all. God, I wish you could have been there. If you want to know the truth, I don't know what I think about it. I'm sorry I told so many people about it. About all I know is I sort of miss everybody I told about. Even the guys at school, my old roommates, for instance. It's funny. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody.
To lie has two meanings in English, and so it can be used as a wordplay too. One, of course, is to lie as in to be untruthful. The second is to lay, which means to have sexual relations with. If one doesn't want to lie about who one has laid with, one risks getting caught in the lie, and then may not be able to lay again with the intended. Lying about laying is,
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate.
So the gist of this book is, and there was a purposeful disconnect in human sexuality, starting with the Kinsey Institute in America, particularly in terms of boys. We used to educate our boys and girls more intelligently when it came to sexuality. It is also true that prior to the invention of the Emerald City and the free sex movement of the Brave New World, farm boys and farm girls witnessed the process of sex early on. Boys and girls understood that if they wanted to increase their parents' rural estate, they had to participate in getting the best stallions with the best mares, the best bulls with the best cows, the best roosters with the best hens, and the best drakes with the best ducks, and the best sires with the best bitches.
Bark.
Woof, woof. The process of how this was done was witnessed annually, and in the case of our Randy Drake, every 20 minutes by land and by sea. I remember the first time I saw a stallion extend his proposal to a young filly who caught his eye. It didn't seem possible that that much love could fit inside him. Or her, for that matter. Parents then weren't afraid to explain the situation in easy enough terms depending on the age of the child witnessing the bull in the field.
Stop steaming up my tail! What are you trying to do, wrinkle it?
Either way, sexuality was better understood in terms of reality. It was then that this happened to your grandfathers and, for some of our listeners, to their great-grandfathers.
Nazi Germany had a plan to sexualize America's children. And Nazi German scientists started working with Alfred Kinsey in the U.S., the Kinsey Institute.
The great sex researcher of the 1950s. Right?
Absolutely. And this is a man who performed sexual acts on 6-week-old babies, boys, and then wrote that every child wants to be sexual. And he interviewed pedophiles and asked pedophiles, what do you think a child wants? It's a completely flawed work, but we have built America's sexual foundation. Every book, every viewer read when they grew up was based off of Kinsey's work, all our curriculum. Hugh Hefner was a subject of Alfred Kinsey.
I didn't know.
Kinsey met Hefner at a college campus, and Hefner was still a virgin at the time, and he groomed Hefner, and he said, look, through publication and pornography, we can desensitize the American male. It is a planned, systemic, and systematic attack.
What started happening 3 or 4 generations back was the purposeful mystification and mythologicalization of human sexuality. These began with the blunt porn industry. Boys and girls have always been interested in sex, thank goodness. Being roughly 153 generations back from Adam and Eve, my ancestors had almost 200 chances to blow me off. How grateful I am that every one of these 306 couplings successfully happened. Societies of men for the boys and societies of women for the girls worked to make puberty and ascension into adulthood easier and gratifying. A boy's maturity, his testosterone, and his natural desire to achieve, provide, and protect were celebrated when he started getting muscles, acted bravely, went on hunts and vision quests, and performed rites of service for his family, his greater family, and his tribe. This was connected to the idea of sexuality. The transition was a bit more forced on the girls, where a boy had to be tuned into his future purpose. A menstruating girl discovered her purpose and then had to deal with it. Anciently, this usually consisted of a great celebratory expression from the older women in a tribe, after which the girl was usually escorted to a private place where she was encouraged to reflect deeply on what it meant to be a temple of life for the sake of others. It was a holy time for both sexes, and the education of such was taken very seriously. All of this changed in first world countries with industrialized porn. Real-world experiences were replaced with mythological stories, imageries, and fake scenarios. People became objects on a page, and human shape and form became platonic. Just as the ancient Greek statues were able to create an impossible ideal for most men and women, Photographic manipulation in America in the modern world did the same. Things that were once witnessed and explained in a real-world setting were now whispered, giggled, and lusted over behind closed doors. Some sexual acts that were never considered by the young and curious became easily illustratable on paper in their bare hands. Because all of this was connected to secrecy and embarrassment, particularly among the young men of the 50s, when it came time to teach the age-old truths of sexuality to the next generation in the Emerald City, our grandfathers let us down. Their education into sex had been lustful and dirty, and as such, these same feelings attached themselves in the mind, and they found themselves unable or too embarrassed by themselves to teach their own sons. This embarrassment and inadequacy was cemented in cartoons, movies, and humor, where it was echoed with bubbling, stumbling fathers trying to find a way out of talking to their sons about the birds and the bees.
Hello, I'm actor Troy McClure. I'm here to provide the facts about sex in a frank and straightforward manner. And now here's Fuzzy Bunny's Guide to You-Know-What. This is Fuzzy Bunny. About a year ago, he noticed his voice was changing. He had terrible acne and had fur where there was no fur before. He also noticed Fluffy Bunny. Fluffy and Fuzzy went to the park, the ice cream social, the boat show, and various other wholesome activities. And they never ruined their fun by giving in to their throbbing biological urges. Then came the big day. Fluffy and Fuzzy got married. That night came the honeymoon.
She's faking it.
The most satisfying part of the night was knowing that they waited. 9 months later, Fluffy gave birth to 14 beautiful bunnies. 8 survive. And now that you know how it's done, don't do it.
Ask any man over 30 if he was ever given a sex talk with his father, and 9 times out of 10 he will say no. What they learned from an adolescent friend, pornography, the media, elementary school, or the internet. It is a shocker that brave men, willing to go to war to defend our nation and families, have been reduced to bubbling morons when it comes to their own penises. Women, too, have suffered as pornography, promiscuity, and abortion have become easier and easier options. The vast numbers of single mothers in our world today prove that all of this is true. What all of this means is that for 70 years now, what used to be mature sexuality, necessary for the continuation of our species, and a 100% fact of nature in all her forms, has been demoted into immature jokes, innuendos, and silliness even by adults. The entire natural truth is now about naughty whispers and attempts to say,
Let us die young or let us live forever.
Nothing is more childish today than adults and sexuality. Thank you, Hugh Hefner and his stupid bunnies.
All we've ever wanted is to look good naked. Hope that someone can take it. God save me rejection from my reflection. I want perfection.
That night came the honeymoon.
She's faking it.
The most satisfying part of the night was knowing that they waited.
What Salinger did, and we will argue brilliantly, was take his emerging juvenile male angst, frustration, anger, competition, and testosterone, and connect it internally to murder. In this, Holden's gun, to accompany his deer or duck hunting hat, he always carries with him in his pants. His constant frustration with male-on-male aggression. Have you ever seen young guys wrestling and getting overly excited like 2 bucks, sizing each other up on a mat? Or his inadequacies with women of all ages throughout the book. Failure after failure, from elderly Mrs. Spencer to his 10-year-old sister, is always connected in the programming with death. Arousal and sexual energy need a release. If you are too immature or stupid yet to see it, never fear. You have to look no further than the text itself for your proof. Due to our immaturity, we do not teach adolescents today that human beings, and really all of God's creation, enter an inner altered state as arousal arises. Women speak of this as going into heat, and one can hear female cats going through this some nights outside your window. Human women know that such times can be emotionally very difficult to manage. Human males find their experience to be a mixture of hyperfocus and some amount of robotization that can be very difficult to shut down once it is turned on.
I'm a mechanical boy, like a mechanical toy. That's because I'm a mechanical boy.
Male arousal is designed to climax with a various and as sundry parts are timed to work in an exact order. In fact, males reach a point where they lose control, and once that moment is reached, the outcome is inevitable. There is even a split second where they tense and freeze, guaranteeing the bullet will hit its mark. This is called the little death in the occult, and when such an act is displayed on an altar before a coven, the moment a man freezes, his little death is celebrated by the naked gawking wizards and witches. These altered internal states and their physical outward manifestations make up what they lustfully refer to as sex magic. Sex is like a drug. Drugs are sorcery in the occult. No adult needs this explained to them. But their teenage children do. What the Catcher in the Rye teaches boys particularly, and broken occult males specifically, is that their inner sodomy rage, male aggression, altered state arousal, and building robotization can climax not in testicular ejaculation from their built-in flesh rifle, but with a metal bullet from an actual gun. The very same physical robotization that takes over males rhythmically, and in which they eventually reach a point of no return, can explode in murder, making the freeze before the little death a freezing of the mind as the fist pulls the metal trigger. This is the purpose of the trauma trancing and the horror hypnosis. It is no coincidence that robo-assassins, Timothy McVeigh, Sirhan, Lee Harvey Oswald, Mark David Chapman, John Hinckley, and of course John Wilkes Booth. No, I was just waiting to see if you were awake. They all considered the Catcher in the Rye, except for John Wilkes Booth. That was a joke, but he was a member of the Illuminati. All of these considered the Catcher in the Rye as being the book that intimately applied to them. Well, we will never know exactly what Jerome David Salinger felt about this. It is impossible to deny from history that prominent assassins have considered it profoundly influential on them. It is also impossible to deny the unrelenting pattern of clever hypno-triggers, double entendres, and subconscious repetitive logic that sexual pressure in hormonal males is to be released through ejaculatory gunfire. The rest is open for debate.
Basically, at the time I was teaching at a Christian school. I was also very involved in military in San Diego. In fact, the group has a lot of military orientation, and so a lot of times I would take the kids to their area. There's an area where the kids would go and change. They had a room, and we would have like baskets of clothes, and we'd change our clothing. You'd take out your clothing, it had your name on it, and put on your uniform or whatever you wore that night. And the kids would wear these little miniature military uniforms. They would go out and do their training exercises. They were learning how to march, how to shoot. All kids in Illuminati know, at least know how to take apart a gun, put it together, and shoot with deadly accuracy by the age of 8 years old. I was normally supervising the younger trainers. They would be doing it, and I would be there watching and making sure they did it correctly. I can tell you that in San Diego, 20% of the active members of the group were active military. As I know, these people aren't always honest or trustworthy. They are deceptive. These are not stupid people.
World War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies, the agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other.
They would have done it already, but Americans still own too many guns and are not afraid to defend their constitutional rights. Thus, guns and the police have got to go, and the Constitution has to be legally undone, such as George Bush did with the Patriot Act. I do have a question, though. If we have proof that men like George Soros are paying people to invade our nation and ride in our streets, why haven't we frozen all his assets and arrested men like him as homegrown terrorists? We blew Randy Weaver's wife away for so much less. We executed Saddam and Osama. Why does Jewish Soros get to do whatever he wants in our streets? Or how about this? Former President Obama has finally admitted that he was not born on American soil.
Now, this isn't where I was born. I was born in Kenya.
And the Constitution firmly states that only one born on United States soil can be president.
And just to be clear, I know where my birth certificate is, but a lot of people don't.
Since we now know that he was illegally elected.
3 years ago, I visited Kenya as the first sitting American president to come from Kenya.
Why have we not voided every bill that he signed?
And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be president of the United States.
Constitutionally, he committed fraud every time he signed legislation.
Yeah, I was not born in Hawaii. I wasn't born in the United States of America. I come from Kenya.
Does that not make every bill he signed null and void under our law?
Now, this isn't where I was born. I was born in Kenya.
The Constitution is the supreme law in the land. If you have been paying attention, you already know the answer.
Never waste a good crisis.
The Constitution must be undermined before you and I can be returned to slavery. Through Armageddon. All of these were tests for a coming day when the occult intends to trigger their program to bring about Armageddon on their terms.
Quoting his own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England, he said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time."
Rule Britannia, Britannia rule always. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves.
The occult believes that this will ultimately happen when they, the million among us who have been programmed to, when they are triggered. But to end this one with a bang, What are we as hold-on supposed to ultimately hold on to? It was there before us all the time. We are supposed to wait in the lie field, the Rye field, a little wordplay spell there, for the Maitreya. He will be the one born and call. He is the one who will take us to the call field. We are to hold on for the call field. We are to follow our programmed purpose by our illuminated masters until the Maitreya is born and call. And all. If you want to know what a child born and call is like, watch the end of Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey. Remember the Star Child at the end? It's not really that clever once you see it. That's because once you know the truth has set you free. Freedom is always more fantastic than any satanic nonsense. Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used.
You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Masters Mahan will continue.